Today on Homeworthy, we're crossing the pond to showcase some of London's most charming homes. Join us as we explore the maximalist, cozy residence of Sarah Laming, the vibrant and whimsical townhouse of Laura Stevens, the exquisitely renovated home of Leanne Kilroy, and the serene yet colorful home of Pandora Taylor. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sarah Laming and welcome to my home in London. Here we are, welcome to the hallway, which is the central focus to the house, and it is so unusual for a London home to have a hallway that stretches the length and breadth, and that's one of the things that really first drew us to the house. I also really love the fact that it is almost a room in itself, and so as you walk in it's really welcoming. There's a chair over here. It's a really old and battered chair that came from a French flea market hundreds of years ago, but the dog Twiglet usually sleeps in there and keeps guard of the house from there for us. I love vintage furniture and furniture with stories and heritage, things that have soul because they've been passed down through generations. So a lot of the things you see in here I have bought over our travels or over our time just hunting for pieces of furniture that I love and that absolutely talk to me. So both the rugs that you can see I bought in Morocco, in Fez, sort of about 10 years ago, maybe even more. I got some from a carpet shop, and then really amazingly, we were really lucky when we went there because friends of ours were living there and had a riad. And so they took me to the junk souk, which is outside the city walls, and there was a man in an old tin hut who literally had his rugs hanging over the hut and beating them clean and dry. And he had been to the markets in the Atlas Mountains, and he had the most incredible selection. So I think this rug came from him. This rug came from a carpet shop. This chest is one that I got from Ardingly Antiques Market, which is a very famous antique market in the UK. You have to get up really, really early to get there to get the good buys. But this was one that I found and was actually incredibly cheap. I'd seen them online for a lot more. The lamp here comes from Singapore. We were really lucky and spent 4 years living in Singapore when I was in my 20s, early 30s. And I picked up loads and loads of pieces when we lived there. It's when I really started falling in love with antiques, particularly Asian ones and their character. So that is an old Chinese lamp with a modern Pookie lampshade on top. And the medicine chest that you see here is another object that came back from Singapore with us. It's I spent years saving up for them. They're really famous old Chinese apothecary chests where they stored all their herbs and their medicines. And I saw one and I knew that I absolutely really wanted one, and I had to save and save and save for it. But it's got hundreds of little drawers which they used to put their herbs and things in. So it's actually one of those chests that we never put anything in because we would never be able to find it again. So if you open a drawer, there might be an old receipt, an old coin, you never know, but nothing of any value. My picture here, that was bought online, actually from eBay, I think. I love old vintage art, and when we were decorating the house, I spent hours and hours hunting on eBay for pieces, so that was bought from there. My statues down here, they came back from Singapore with me. They, again, we got engaged when we lived in Singapore, and these two statues are a married couple, and they're a symbol of good luck, so they're a really nice thing that we brought back with us. The mantelpiece is, I guess, the star and the heart of the hall, and the star and the heart of the home. The fire's only ever really lit in there at Christmas, but it's always beautiful when it is with the Christmas tree, and it's a really sort of traditional English feeling when you have Christmas in here. Again, my two Staffordshire dogs, picked up at a vintage antiques emporium down on the south coast. I'd wanted one of these for ages. They come in a pair, and they're very, very English, very old-fashioned, but they're getting a new lease of life, and I think they're really cool. This is what my son, who's just been travelling in Southeast Asia, he brought me that back from Vietnam because he knew I'd like it, so that's a little thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when I'm building a home and thinking about the things that I put in it, everything I put in it is chosen with a lot of thought, but also a lot of love. And I always buy or put things in it that are really personal to me or have stories associated with them, which have a history. And so when I look at them, they always evoke a memory of a time that they were bought, or a place or an emotion that I felt at the time. And that's my whole thing behind my Instagram account, of building a home that makes you smile, that's really about you, and then styling it around it so it's not cluttered but is beautiful. So I absolutely love pieces of furniture that come to me with a story to tell. And my friend Anna gave me, who is the person who started my Instagram journey, because she was the one who told me that I should start posting pictures of my house. Anyway, a couple of years ago, after her granny had died, she said to me, I think this table and chair would be perfect for your house. I don't know what to do with them from my granny. Would you like them? And I said, yes, I absolutely would. So pieces of furniture find their way to me, that's what I wanted to say, in stories in so many different ways, so much so that friends' grannies end up giving them to me. So this really beautiful old chair and old table have found their perfect new home. We moved into this house in 2005. We moved from a much more central London location, which I absolutely loved there. We could walk into Soho and the river. But it was so urban, and so we've just moved this few extra miles out to a much more villagey part in London, still very central though. And we get that green space and a garden and much more space in a house than we could otherwise have had. So we fell in love with this house when we moved into it, because it's so unusual for a London home, in that it's 2 floors and it's very wide and it's laterally spaced, whereas often I think in London you go up and up and up and up and you have rooms on different floors. But this house was built in 1905, I want to say, maybe 1908, for the doctor who lived in the village. And I think what we loved about it, like I said, when we came in, was the space that you get with it and the feel. It's also an arts and crafts house, so the craftsmanship and the detail that goes into everything is extraordinary, and that's what we love, and that's what we've tried to change as little as possible. So if you can see just the carving on things like the mantelpieces, or as we come over here, the carving on the divider between the hall and that very sunny morning room that we call it. So yeah, it was incredible detail, incredible workmanship that's gone into it, and we've loved so much. So now I'm going to take you into our kitchen, which is very bright and cheerful. Welcome to the kitchen, which is obviously quite a heart of the home. In this house, it was a really dark space when we first moved in. It was divided into 2 rooms, and it really struggles for light. It faces north and it faces onto a side alleyway, as you can see. So I have tried various colours in here to try and make it into a cheerful and not dark and gloomy space. It's yellow at the moment. It could well change again soon, but at the moment this is good. If you look around the kitchen, behind me you can see my yellow saucepans, again, that I picked up at a vintage flea market. And above there, along the shelf, is actually the wood carvings. I don't know what they call them, but they are for our wedding invitations. So when we got married, my husband was very keen that we didn't have a traditional wedding with kind of white wedding invitations with gold writing and so on. So he had a friend of his make us a really cool book for our wedding. My favourite poem is The Owl and the Pussycat, and so he made us a little book which we sent to our guests, which we can see, which invited them to the wedding. And they got this instead of an invitation. So that was really fun. I guess one of the things that I've learned about myself over 20, 30 years of styling houses is that I kind of never want my house to look like anybody else's. I want it to be a house that's about me, and you can tell that it's me that lives here when you walk in, or my family that lives here, not designed by an interior designer or like a trend that you see. So I tend to try and always look for ways of doing things that I love. And when we did this kitchen, I suddenly decided that I really wanted a concrete worktop. They weren't a thing at the time. Do I love it now? I'm not sure, because it's quite cold and it's quite hard, but I like it. Up here's some of my favourite things, really special because they came from my mum when we cleared out her house after my mum and dad passed away, and I kept some of the things that I really loved. So these are her old coffee jugs and a biscuit jar that I remember from my childhood, and another jug. And round the corner, which we can get to again, is a green velvet chair that my dad spent all of his time sitting in, and I've kept that, and he would watch sport on Sunday afternoons or whatever from this green chair. So I love having that there as the memories for them and those inherited pieces. I've got pigeon lights up there. They're a very modern, funky design by, I think I want to say they're Tom Dixon, but I might double check that. But anyway, they were bought in Liberty's department store along when we did up the house 16 years ago. They're harder to get now, but I really love them. They're cool and they're fun, and they add a bit of quirkiness and character to the room without being too dominating, which I think is something that I'd like to say about decorating my home, is that I like to add a little bit of whimsy or a little bit of quirkiness to a room, but not so that it becomes too much, but just so that it draws your eye a little bit, or you notice something as you're going along. So you just add a bit of interest without making a kind of crazy home. I like doing things like that. I've set the table especially for us today because tablescaping is one of the things that I really love to do, and I think it's actually so easy to create a really beautiful table without too much trouble. I haven't even got a tablecloth on here. I was debating it because sometimes I do, but again, I really like the worn patina and the history and the stories that this table tells with the with its patina. It came back with us again from when we lived in Asia, and it's been with us, and we've eaten around it and had Christmas around it for over 20 years. So it's had a lot of love and a lot of life, and if you look closely you can tell. But I love collecting vintage tableware, as you can see from my shelves, and I've put some on here as well. So I like mixing it in. So this is an old Portuguese Bordelot Pinheiro cabbage leaf bowl that I found, and this one I'm really pleased about because it had the actual salad servers to go with it, which are really charming and lovely. Although I don't actually let anyone eat out of this one or use the servers ever, but they look nice. Sometimes I'll put lettuce in it. And then I've got French wine glasses, the green-stemmed wine glasses. They're so easy to find, and I think they're so jolly on tables. But a little bit of hunting, they're really not expensive, which is the same. So I mix them in with these pink ones as well. Again, old French, I think from the 60s, 70s, with their pink stems. Again, easy to find and not expensive. Some vintage candle holders. Always little pots of flowers along with fresh flowers. These are my bowls that I recently got from Anthropology, who always do lovely tableware. So I really like mixing the old and new. So you're not overdosing on anything. You've just got a mix of things that you love. I think keeping your colours really simple on a table again, I do. So this one's greens and pinks and then natural colours. And then just doing a tablescape I really love is having candles, both tea lights and of course in candle tapered in their vintage candle holders. And fruit is so simple to just elevate that table space to that different level. So just lemons that are literally falling out of bowls, and almost you just let them roll onto the table to give that really casual effect. Because I guess if I'm having friends for dinner, I want it to be casual. That's kind of how I feel about my house. It's welcoming, it's casual, it's not formal. I'm relaxed, and I really want you to be relaxed. So an abundance of fruit or blueberries here again that are falling overloaded the pots, and again with the tables having the different heights, so you're going up and down, so your eye is drawn all along. And little vases of flowers, pots of flowers, pineapples. Obviously you always need a pineapple on your table. One other thing on the tablescape while we're here is I was talking about colours and keeping it really simple to say two colours like pink and green with some neutrals. But what I really love doing, and I talk about this a lot in my book, is adding a pop of an accent colour. And in my house, I use a lot of yellow. So here, that's why I've got the lemons. I always think the yellow here, and that the jug as well is that pop of an accent colour, just again to add that bit of interest without being too over the top, but just gives it a little bit of something to look at. And then up here is a collection of a vintage tea services. There's a couple of amalgamated, a colourful one, and then some old black and gold and cream ones that I've picked up over the years. They aren't used very often, but I really love having vintage tea sets on display. I think they work almost as a painting on a wall in a kitchen. They give you a bit of art. Here is a little tiny weeny block that my friend, who's an artist, paints. She's called Sarah. She'd love it. But yeah, she painted that specially for me for my birthday. So that's something that I love. And my teapot lights, again, they came when we did the house, and I had that whole thing of looking for things that were stylish and cool and a little bit quirky, but not too over the top. And we spotted these teapot lights, and I thought they would be a really fun addition to the dining room table and to a kitchen, because they capture the essence of, English tea drinking, which I do a lot of. Let's go now into what we call the library. This is what we call the library. It actually was a corridor in the house before. In fact, it was a really dark downstairs cloakroom and larder that you couldn't see. So we wanted to open it up because we wanted to get the view from the house into the garden, and also because this hall was really dark, so we wanted to let all the light in. So we did get rid of the 2 tiny little rooms and made this space, and we didn't know what to do with it. And I think anyone who knows me will know that I absolutely love reading. There are books all over this house. There are books all over my social media channels, always left on sofas or by beds, and I'm always reading. So it was really lovely to have a space to put all my books. So first of all, to the bookshelf design. Those were specially made by a wonderful carpenter friend of ours called Jake. He literally made them and then attached them to the wall. So they've got the lovely cross design that you can see here with so it just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then we followed it round the room. We painted it dark because we wanted it to be a really cozy, comforting space, and the light was filling it from the garden so it could get away with it. Again, the ceiling it's all sort of it's all black, so or a really dark blue, so it kind of comforting room. Some of my favourite things in here, bookshelves. I really love a bookshelf, and one of my favourite things is styling bookshelves. And I think that people would say that traditionally you have your books on rows, maybe done by alphabetically or theme or something, but I think my husband would say that I never have our books like that. So our bookshelves, I think, are just another way to display things that you love. So these ones are colour-coded. Some people don't like that. I really do. And then interspersed, so you get the sort of 3D-ness of them. So you're looking into them, so you get the depth. So hanging a picture on the front of a bookshelf is one of my absolute favourite things to do. Again, adding some interest, making it into a feature. So there's a couple of pictures, putting ornaments, lights, candles. There you go. And like you can just make a really simple reading nook with a bookcase, a chair, and a little table, and you've just made a really cosy corner for reading, adding a couple of lights or a light and some greenery. But let's talk about some of the things here. And I guess 2 of my absolute favourite things are this wicker elephant from the 1970s UK and my Paddington bear, both of which I absolutely love. The wicker elephant, I had a search going on eBay for about a year till one came up. It did come up. I drove from London to Brighton to pick him up. I got home and Twiglet, our dog, who was a puppy at the time but is now 13, literally the first thing she did was chew his trunk to pieces. So I decided that to be true to myself, I would have to not mind, because every piece of furniture tells a story, and that was Twiglet's story to the wicker elephant. So I've lived with that ever since. But the second piece is my Paddington bear, who again I found at an antiques market 10, 15 years ago, and I absolutely love him. I started sharing my home in 2019 on social media, and I was talking about this the other day because I was actually 50 when I started it. So I'd been at home, I'd been looking after the children, and I really didn't know what I was going to do, and I knew that I had to do something. And a friend just said, look, you've got a lovely home, why don't you just start posting little snippets of your home on Instagram? And so I did, and I thought I'm just going to commit to this for a month, and I'm going to post every day. And as I did it, I started to get, you know, followers coming in, and I really met people through hashtag challenges at the time. And I really realised that it was something I enjoyed and that people were interested in my house. And so then the pandemic hit, then we were all at home for however long each of us was. And I had loads of time to put more of my house on Instagram, as lots of people did. So it grew from then, and it was then the introduction of Reels and my window in about 2021 that made my account really grow. And that's when I really realised that my Instagram account was becoming not just about a home and little corners of your home and an interior decorating account, but it was actually becoming about a home that made you have feelings and that made you feel calm, and the windows and the seasons changing through the windows along with my furniture was just appealing to people because they had a sense of peace, and those are the messages that I get a lot on my Instagram. So it made me realise how I wanted my home to feel was coming across through my Instagram Reels. So now I have a book coming out in fall. It's called Relaxed Maximalism. I've had the most amazing photographer called Lou Souza, who's worked with me on it, and she has captured this house just absolutely beautifully, and another home that we have by the seaside. And yeah, I guess my book came from my Instagram account and the sense of I really wanted to share how it was that you could put so much of yourself into your home and yet not end up with a cluttered looking mess that was full of stuff, but was a home that was stylish and beautiful and harmonious, and how you could do that through having themes that ran through your home, and how you can mix colours and patterns, and how to bring it all together in a cohesive way so that you can make a home which is of style, not clutter. So this is my study. It's where I spend a lot of time and do my work, and it's where I've just spent the whole of the winter writing my book. I guess that the main feeling that I wanted to create in this room was to echo the outside in the paint colour. So if you look out of the window, it's an incredibly green vista, especially in summer where the fig tree is dominating and the trees to the front. So choosing this green brought that outside in that I talk about and that I love so much, with all the plants that I have around, which we will come on to, and my floral sofas, which you will see one here. But yeah, I do that a lot. It's also, again, colour drenched, so that, I mean, it's such an easy way of decorating, but I think it allows what's in the room to pop, because I paint everything in the same colour. So the window frames, the picture rails, the skirting boards, the fireplace, the back of the door are all in this green. So what I think that does is it makes you draw, you don't lose yourself in the gaps of a white one there where the room seems broken up. Everything is really harmoniously comes together, and then your eye can be drawn to all the things that are in the room. Here we've got old vintage paintings, again, that I've picked up along my journeys from antique fairs, piles of books. Like, I really do just love piles of books. I think they are a really good way of styling rooms. They're just really relaxing to have around. So there's my art propped on piles of books. This round table is an 18th century English table, I believe, which I bought at auction when I was decorating this room, because I really wanted to work at a round table in the middle of the room, which isn't always practical, as you will see, so there is somewhere else too. But I do love sitting at this table and working. If we come to here, you've got my windows, which I rarely have curtains or blinds on, as you'll see. Again, because I just love having the light that comes into the room, and we aren't overlooked here. And one of my many floral sofas, I have 4 at the last count. They're all slightly different. This one, again, is old, vintage, found after many months of searching for the perfect one for this corner. It's quite neutral, and I really do think that floral sofas can be a really neutral thing in a room, as opposed to a sofa which is just a big block of colour. But anyway, I love that. And then my windowsills that you'll see all through my house. I guess I'm really lucky because I've got really wide windowsills. But as opposed to having curtains, I just love filling them with books and plants and the odd lamp. To bring a bit of style and colour to the room. And then on the floor, you've got zebra print rug. I love a bit of zebra print. I think it can be real neutral in a room and it adds a real character. So yeah, that's my zebra print, which anchors the table in the centre of a room. I think a table on a rug is really helpful. I really do like to have things in my rooms to give that warm feeling. So I like bringing the outside in with flowers, and I like having rugs, and I love having my books around. So I do fill my rooms with things like that. And yet it's really easy to get that feeling, if you do that, to be cluttered. So I really think about how I do it. So one way in which I do it is to keep the colours really limited and really simple. So basically, there are 3 colours in this room. There's green, there's the colours picked out of the sofa, the oranges, and then the neutrals. Now you will see pops of red, but that's sort of as an accent. So I try and create a really harmonious feeling by really limiting the colour palette, and also by just never dumping anything there, but actually styling where I put it down. Again, a cupboard that's filled with little pieces that I find on my way to add to my tablescapes, egg cups and little sorbet ice cream cups, plates for Christmas. Again, that's a really pretty vintage cupboard. The globe that my brother gave me for a birthday. But yeah, I think I do try and bring everything into a room to create a sense of warmth. But then the styling of it is crucial, or you will end up cluttered, and keeping the colours really, really simple. Now I'm going to take you to the downstairs cloakroom. This is the downstairs cloakroom. It's the most decorated room in my house, I guess, because it's got a really floral wallpaper on it. But I really love downstairs cloakrooms for that, because they're rooms that you don't tend to spend a lot of time in. So I think they're rooms where you can really go to town with your decorating. So, and they're often quite small, so you can kind of go a bit crazy in them. So this is a floral wallpaper designed by Pearl Lowe, a British celebrity and designer now. It's floral, so obviously I was going to love it because it goes with my floral sofas. It's quite dark, but also what it does is it picks out all the other colours in my house. I've basically found in this wallpaper. So it's kind of the central point that everything flows from, even though it's this tiny little room. So you've got the green in the study room, you've got the blues in the hall, you've got pinks, which you find in the morning room, very light pinks, some neutrals, and the only colour that isn't here is the yellow, but never mind. So yeah, that's this room. The ceiling is painted in black, all the woodwork's painted in black. I never leave white woodwork. I just have a thing about it, so yeah. So this is our TV room, sitting room. It's a room that we use in the evening a lot. Hence, again, it's a really dark, welcoming colour. It's the downpipe colour that everybody seemed to paint their house in about 15 years ago, which I did. And I've never changed it. I think I might, but there is just something I still love about this colour. But wait for it, because one day it might turn light blue. Anyway, yep, again, this is a room that is filled with things that have meaning and feelings and are also styled. So again, the rug was picked up on one of those many trips to Morocco. It's a Beni Urain rug designed by the Hill tribes. The paintings, both of these two paintings, we bought back from Vietnam. There's another painting upstairs from there. Again, when we lived in Asia, we spent a lot of time in Hanoi, the city. We loved going there, and it is filled with really amazing artists. So we used to spend hours wandering around the old city, looking for not very expensive art at the time, although it's now got really popular, and haggling and spending our time buying some really beautiful pieces of artwork alongside eating amazing Vietnamese food. So yeah, these paintings both came back from Hanoi, and they're mixed in with a lamp, which is a designer lamp in the UK. So I really do like that. I don't just have old vintage pieces in my home. I really like the mixing of old and new, high street, high-end department store. I think you can get a really lovely balance of all of it. So that light is a nice but expensive lamp. Another floral sofa that you can see, which is from Anthropology. I worked with them on this, so that was nice. Again, my windows are decorated. I've got an African drum here that we use as a table. It makes me realise, as I'm chatting this through, of how much history is in my home and how much I do pick things up and I do buy things as I am going along. So yet again, this table came back with us from when we lived abroad in Singapore. I guess what I love having in sitting rooms is lots and lots of tiny little coffee tables. So if you can see, there's one down there, which is just, they're my favourite sort of tables. You can just plop them anywhere. They're kind of spare tables, occasional tables, and little round ones just popped in front of a sofa with a vase of flowers on, or it's somewhere to put a cup for a cup of tea, or the TV remote control. They just are really easy to find and really easy to pop down anywhere. I love little tables with lamps on. You can see that one over there. Again, that's a vintage lamp, a bit too big for the table. I like the fact it's almost too big for it. But the juxtaposition and just taking up the whole space. I like having loads and loads of lamps in a room. I just don't think you can have too many. And I really love not using the overhead lights too much. So here, our room is just lit by little table lamps, the overhead lamps, and I really try to layer all the lights on coffee tables, windowsills, floor lamps. So your eye, particularly on our very long English winter evenings, the room is just lit by pockets of beautiful warm lights. I really love these patterned lampshades. So I've got this one here and that one there. I have loads of different patterns, and I literally treat my table lamps a bit like fashion objects. So come changing the seasons or changing in the weather, I've got different lampshades that will match all the different lampstands that I've got, and they're like different hats, and I pop them on. So I might put a yellow one on there if the sun's out, or a green one at a different time of day. They're just really simple ways to elevate it. And also I really love fabric lampshades because I think they give, they really add to a pattern. If you're using patterns in a room, they're really easy to intersperse, and also they are just beautiful in themselves. The patterns are, even when the light isn't on, I always think that a little patterned lampshade looks lovely. Actually, as I'm just leaving this room, and I'm going to take you to the next room, and I'm having to weave my way out past the big cushion, what's it called, floor cushion, that we put our feet on at night, and we put trays on. It serves at everything. But one thing I love about rooms, what I'm trying to say, is that I love the fact that you have to weave your way through them, like find little corridors, as it makes them really interesting rooms to be in. So here I am as I weave my way through the sitting room to come out and take you to the next room. So this is what we call our morning room, which is quite a grand name, but that's how it was described in the floor plan and the details when we bought the house. So it's stayed ever since, which actually is quite bizarre because it doesn't get the sun in the morning, but it gets the sun at this time of day. So actually maybe it should be called the late afternoon or evening room. Yeah, this is our everybody's favourite room in the house, I think. It is where everything about my styling, I think, comes together. We've got the famous Instagram window here, which is always peeping out onto the seasons and which gives us blossom in spring, golden autumnal colours in autumn, and this carpet of green in summer. In winter, it rarely gives us snow, but occasionally it will. So that's the window that everyone loves from my Instagram account, with my floral sofa in front of it. I remember buying this floral sofa a really, really long time ago, 15 years ago, and I was absolutely determined to have one. I think I'd seen one somewhere, and I had to really hunt for it, and then I hunted and hunted for the fabric, which is a Sanderson fabric, and which I then had the sofa upholstered in it. And it is such a loved piece of furniture, and it really has become iconic to my house. There is always a blanket, there's always a book, there's usually a dog, but it's too hot for her at the moment, but hopefully she'll come later. There's always someone in front of the window doing something. Again, having a floral sofa, some people I think would worry that it might dominate the room and be hard to mix patterns with, but I find it the opposite. I think that as long as you've got your neutral colours in it, you can put anything on it, mixing it with lampshades and the other flowers. We use this room all day, every day, and we use it to relax in, as opposed to mostly we don't watch TV in it. Mostly we are sitting on the sofa chatting as a family or with somebody else, or someone is reading, or we are playing backgammon on it. We play cards around this table. We sometimes eat at it. It's a real hub of the house, and I think because it's so connected to the hallway, you never feel like you are on your own in the house. You're always connected to the rest of the house. And I think that's just really lucky to have here. And of course, you know, we literally do sit on this sofa and we really do watch the seasons roll by. You know, that is a highlight of everybody's day. I love having a big coffee table in front of a sofa. This one came back with us from Singapore, surprisingly enough. It's an Indonesian coffee table. I think that they give a real focus to a room. They give you something to walk around. They give you an idea and a way of styling your little objects or things that you love on them. So I always begin styling my coffee table with a couple of piles of books. There's usually a little light and then some trinkets on coffee tables. Frequently, I think if you are styling a coffee table, you want things in threes and with a colour that matches. So that's almost too big, but 3 on that book, or you've got a 3 next to each other. You want to vary the heights, so you've got tall things and lower things. But basically, if you put things on books, you'll give the coffee table a sense of solidness. There won't be things floating around in odd places. There's always a cup. There's normally a cup of tea in it. And the rugs, if you look at the rugs in here, I've got a bit of animal print which acts as a neutral, but it's layered on top of a very rusticy, creamy rug with bits of brown in it. And again, I really love layering rugs to add a little bit of texture. And if you get your colours right, so basically these two rugs use the same colours, they're just slightly different sizes. And therefore you can add a bit of interest and texture by just popping one on top of the other. There's a really big floral painting on the wall here. That came from an online poster company, and if I'm looking for pieces of art like that, I'll tend to go for the biggest size possible, so that it's the painting itself or the poster that makes the impact. I'm not a fan of gallery walls, dare I say, or lots of little prints all arranged together. I really, really like statement pieces of art. And I think if you're struggling to find a way of putting a gallery wall together, instead just looking online and finding the biggest piece that you can seems to me to solve all those problems. And actually, I think it makes a real statement. So yeah, I really love this, and I love the way it echoes the colours in the rooms. It's, yeah, a really good piece. Again, mixing that modern and brand new with all the vintage art that I have around. I like to include both. All of these tips that I've been talking about, like styling a coffee table, mixing patterns, introducing floral sofas, buying vintage, incorporating different eras and styles of furniture, putting high street and vintage together, are all, including the themes, like the little themes, like bringing nature into your house, a personal touch, a sense of history. Those things are all included in my book, so which is coming out in fall. So if you want to see more, then there is that too. So here is a little secret to this house that I'm about to show you, because next to my window onto the garden is a secret door. Come with me and see. Underneath the shade of the fig tree and amongst the agapanthus is this little secret old Cambodian rain drum with two rickety old chairs, and it's where we sit and have our, don't know, early evening drink or catch some sun in the morning. But it's the most beautiful shaded spot, and it is really at its best at this time of year because the agapanthus are out. It's like our secret garden in the heart of London. So welcome to the landing of our house, which again, for London particularly in a big city, is just incredible to have such a big space. And again, it's one of those features of the arts and crafts movement when the house was built. But yeah, this little section's like another room in itself. And I really wanted to make a focal point against this wall. So it's really simply done. There's just a rug, an antique bench, and the painting above it. The painting we bought, again, a long time ago when we were in Hanoi in Vietnam, and she is, again, one of those pieces that always makes me smile. I just love her. She's so calm, she's so serene, and I love the colours. And yeah, she is a classic piece of a home to make you smile, finding those pieces that have got a story and a soul and a meaning to them that you love. Yeah, again, I guess the pillows on there are, again, an example of pattern mixing, and I think they'd probably be quite a good way to explain how pattern mixing can work, which is, I think if you've got a colour theme, if you can really mix lots of different patterns if you have a thread of colour that goes through each of them. So these cushions are all linked by threads of colour. So you can see in here the pink comes through the pink on there, the pink around the butterfly, there's some pink in the parrot, pinky purple around here, and onto the purple of that cushion. So all of those cushions, no matter that their patterns are so different, there's leopard print mixed in, there's stripes, and let me come to the black and white stripe, which obviously doesn't have any colour in it, but black and white is really good to have as a neutral in a pattern mix. You can put it in anything and it breaks up the whole array of patterns so it doesn't get too much. But yeah, pattern mixing, if you're wanting to do it, keeping that thread of colour going through. Again, you can see there's a lot of yellow in them and the yellow reflected in the painting. And that enables you to just keep the harmony when you are mixing your patterns. So here we are in the bedroom, which is a really beautiful light-filled room, and it's painted in a old Farrow and Ball archive colour, which is got a great name. It's called Potted Shrimp, and it really does change colour with the light, and it can be very shrimp-like in the darker lights. One of the things I love most about this room is the really flimsy Whimsical linen mix curtains that I have that blow in the breeze, and on Instagram lots of people ask after them, and they are truly magical. They really do let in light and breeze, but they don't actually work as curtains, let's be clear on that. So behind them I always have a blackout blind so that actually does the job of a curtain, and the linen blend mix curtains just look pretty and float in the wind. I've got an antique mirror here which came from France. I bought it, there's a really lovely little company near to us who do summer shows and autumn shows called Fabulous Vintage Finds, and they go to France every year and pick up loads of stuff. So the mirror and in fact the little desk both came from there at one of their summer fairs or artist open houses, as did the little bench, stool. And yeah, again, the floral theme continues onto my bed cover and my bedding with little cushions, again, mixing and matching patterns, the stripes with the florals, or turning over my cushions and adding a bit of yellow to with a flower. Again, the windowsills filled with books and flowers and pots of things that are growing. I just have such an obsession with having, bringing that outside in and really creating a calm and natural feeling room. And the curtain is blowing. Yeah, again, patterned lampshades, a little chair. The mirror is absolutely beautiful, but try doing your makeup in it, and all the time you realise that buying really old vintage patterned things comes at a cost because you can't actually see yourself. So I have to go to my daughter's room to do anything like that, but I wouldn't swap it for the world. When I'm thinking about decorating a bedroom, it's really interesting because I think some people decorate bedrooms for nighttime. They go, you want a really dark, cocooning room because when you're going into it, you're sleeping, so you are winding down for sleep. Other people might decorate it for daytime, but I kind of look at a bedroom and think, I'm going to decorate this bedroom for a Sunday morning lie-in, because that is my favourite time of the day. And even if I only get that once a week or sometimes never, just that feeling that it gives me. So it's got a beautiful warm pink on the walls to give it that sense of warmth and harmony, and yet it's still light and bright to give you the sense of it's daytime, you're not cocooned. So I guess I think, yeah, when I'm designing my bedrooms, I always think about that vibe of when I really love being in it. And I think being with my book on a Sunday, having a lie-in with a cup of coffee and a croissant, and the breeze blowing and the curtain blowing is the way that I really love my bedrooms to feel. home to me is a place which is about feelings. A house is the structure that's made of bricks and woodwork. It's a place to be decorated. But a home is somewhere that has that sense of je ne sais quoi, that vibe, that feeling where you're sitting in a room and it feels like it's a part of you because it's got your stories, your history, your connections in it, the things that you've chosen. And it might be that you walk into a room and you know exactly how the light falls in that room at that particular moment in the day, and you think that's where you're going to have your cup of tea. Or the patterns that you've chosen are the patterns that you've put together over time and with the sense of history that comes with it. That's a home. It's all about the person who's created it and the people that are in it and the feeling that that creates.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting the bright and playful London home of interior designer Laura Stevens. In true English fashion, she has combined chintz, florals, and stripes throughout the rooms in a way that feels simultaneously sophisticated and relaxed. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. By clicking the join button below, you not only support the production of these episodes, you also gain access to exclusive content just for members. And today you'll get a look into the darling bathroom perfect for Laura's 3 daughters, complete with checkerboard floors and a pink tub. So join today to see more of the homes you love.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Laura Stevens and welcome to my London home. Come in. So this is a reception room at the front of the house, and I wanted to really create quite a formal but really comfortable aesthetic in this room. And the colour of the walls is super important to me because I painted it when I first came here, and it was kind of like a pearly grey, and it was just really cold. So a few years ago I painted it in this lovely kind of warm stone colour, which is called Clay by Little Green. And then it really sets off colour really well against it. So we have this vintage yellow linen on these chairs, and I was really mindful of just trying to warm everything up and make it feel really layered. And there's a lot of pattern going on in the room. I have all these cushions on the sofa which are set against this stripe, and I really feel like stripe is almost like a neutral, so yeah, I love a stripe, and the pattern works really well against it. It doesn't clash. This is Lulu, she's trying to get involved here. I wanted to create some symmetry as well because I wanted to it really helps to add to that sense of formality. So it's a really nice layout, and the square aspect of this room really allowed me to set it up like a really formal reception room. So we've got a sofa, we've got 2 armchairs facing, it's really convivial, and it's all set around the fireplace. And the fireplace is original. We were really lucky that was there. The cornicing, I think, is a replacement of the original. It was here when we came in, but we're just so lucky with the proportions of this house because the ceilings are really tall and it's got a really grand feeling to it, and I wanted to really engage with that without making it feel like that we're living in a Jane Austen period drama, because I live here with my 3 children and my dog. So it's all about kind of celebrating the grandeur of the house, but being a really comfortable, practical family home. I'm not precious about it at all. As you can see, the dog is everywhere, even though I swore she would never go on any sofas. Obviously, gave up on that after about a week. But the symmetry again is reflected here in the windows. So we've got these really pretty lamps with big shades, and then I love a chintzy fabric, but my husband was like, not too much flower, so I chose this chintzy but quite sort of soft and subtle fabric from Colfax and Fowler for the drapes. And the rest of the items I've really just picked up over the years. I love collecting artwork. I had this really cute plate made of Lulu, which I love. That's one of my favourite things in the room, and that's by a ceramicist called Rabina Jack. And yeah, the rest of the items are just stuff that I've built up over the years, really. It's a lot. I have a lot of copied books, and my husband literally can't believe that I use them, but I really do, because I find interior design books and historical books really inspiring, and I try to look to them instead of kind of Instagram for inspiration, because they really celebrate the tradition of decorating. A lot of these are from all around the world. A lot of them are kind of British traditional style, but I also have, like, there's a book here on Italian architecture, on Australian homes. So yeah, I do really use them, but I have quite a collection. The coffee table is groaning, and I think I might have to do an edit before I get any more, but yeah, they're a great form of inspiration for my work. The lighting in this room, it was really important to create a really warm kind of layered approach. There was a central pendant when we moved in, which I actually removed. I think central pendants can look beautiful for decoration, but in here I knew I'd never have it on, and I just wanted to really focus the lighting on wall lights and lights over the pictures and lamps. I think lighting is probably, next to fabric and pattern, my favourite aspect of design. So yeah, I've got some really pretty wall lights with these kind of shell backgrounds, and I had these shades made, again, little pop of yellow to pick up on the yellow that you can see sort of throughout the room. I get a lot of my lamps from eBay. This is an Italian, over here, it's an Italian, quite interesting lamp, and for me, the kind of more crazy and quirky the lamp, the better. I think it's a really nice way of bringing personality to a scheme. And I love the softness of pleated lampshades. I use them a lot, even in the kitchen, throughout the house, because they just create a really kind of soft, warm glow. The lampshades here on these lamps are from Fermoy, and again, I've used their lampshades a lot. They're just beautiful and soft and have a really lovely diffused light which come through. I think in terms of mixing patterns together, that's something which I get asked about a lot, and there aren't really any hard and fast rules, because I have some quite different patterns in here. I think here we've got a really similar print but in different colours, for example, so that works really well. Any floral with a stripe, and you'll see this repeated throughout the house, I just think is a great combination, because it just offsets the kind of floral frilly aspect. So again, I've got a stripe here, but also I like mixing different size prints. So if you have a large print on, say, your drapes, you could do much smaller print on cushions. So yes, it is instinctual, but I wouldn't go for, like, say, two same size, really similar prints. I like to mix them, and that really helps with a sense of layering as well in a room. But yeah, you'll see a lot of stripe and floral, because you just can't really go wrong. And actually this cushion is a stripe with a floral, and yeah, I just love these tassels, which again you'll see throughout the house. So let's go into the snug, which is through here. Come with me. So welcome to our snug. This has gone from when we first moved in, it was the least used room in the house, and now I think, aside from the kitchen, it's the most used room in the house. It was a playroom, and my kids are now 18, 15 and 10. So I knew it wasn't going to be a playroom as such, but I wanted it to be a family space. It used to have a big chimney breast in the middle, which kind of changed the proportions and made it a bit awkward. So we removed the chimney breast totally and put in these two big steel beams. But this room is just blessed with such high ceilings. I knew that that wouldn't really be an issue and you would barely notice them because, yeah, they're just crazily high ceilings. I think the ceilings are the highest in the whole house. And I replaced the chimney breast with this enormous built-in unit. I wanted to create a focal point. There's no fireplace or natural focal point in this room. I knew it wanted to be a TV room, and I mean, there are lots of very clever ways to hide TVs, but sometimes I just think, you know, we're a family, we watch TV, let's just own it and put it in a lovely piece of joinery. And they painted this, I'm not sure if you can capture it on camera, but it's like a lovely gloss blue, and the gloss kind of bounces the light around the room. It's quite a dark room, so that's why I chose the gloss, just to add a bit of reflection and light. Yeah, the drapes are really tall in here, and I chose this lovely kind of soft lemon yellow. I just wanted this room to feel really easy to be in, and I did play with going like really dark and cozy, which I might do at some point, but I just wanted it to feel just really relaxing, and just very informal. And to that end, on this wall at the back, we have this like collection of artwork, which we've built up over, yeah, kind of 20 years. A lot of this artwork was in our previous home, and because it was a lot smaller, our previous homes, there was a lot of little pieces which just seemed to be lost on the walls of this house. So I decided to collate everything, and just I've got everything here from like kids' pictures to some really lovely artists to plates which I've collected on eBay, and some photographs, but it just adds to the informality and kind of relaxed aspect of this room. And then the sofa fits all of us pretty much. It's quite rare these days that we're all in one place, because I have teenagers who are all over the place. But yeah, it's just a really, really nice place to relax. This room we tend to entertain either in the kitchen and dining room or in the reception room. I think because, yeah, I think probably the way this is laid out really lends itself to kind of lounging around and watching TV. So this room is really reserved for sort of hanging out, really. Let's go to the next room, I think. So I'm going to show you my little powder room, or WC as we call it. And this house really lacked a downstairs toilet. It's a big house, and when we did the major part of the renovation of this house, which was about 6 years ago, we knew we wanted to install a downstairs toilet. And I just really didn't want to have a little tiny pokey downstairs loo. We've got the space to make it quite big. And I had this wallpaper in mind I always wanted to use in this kind of space, and it's called Strawberries by Cole & Son, and it's just so pretty. And we added some panelling at the bottom just to make it practical, and so it just gets a little less wear and tear. The ceiling is painted green, and I just wanted it to feel really all-encompassing, this room. If it had been white, it would have been a really different experience. There's a stripy blind again with a pink trim, and this offsets the kind of floral pattern. And I think probably the sink is one of my favourite things in the house. It was a bit of a splurge, but I just love it, and every day I appreciate it. So this is our kitchen diner, and this is where we carried out the most work in the house. And what I fell in love with about this house when we saw it 10 years ago was the stained glass and this really unusual bay configuration of the doors at the back. The only issue with this room was that the side of the house wasn't here, so we installed that glazed roof pitched glass that you can see. And actually this room finished here where the steel was. So it was a great space, but it was really long and narrow and really dark. So we decided to insert the steel and extend this glazing outwards, and it's just really served to flood the whole room with light. And the sun is coming through to really show you what we mean. And I wanted it to feel really natural. I didn't want it to feel like an addition. I wanted to, really have it in keeping with the nature of the house. And the original cornicing was here when we came, and I wanted it to feel almost like an orangery, like a really traditional conservatory. So instead of kind of doing big glazed walls, we added these big windows, these sash traditional windows. And I'm really happy with it because it's very hard with London kitchen extensions not to make them feel like super modern and contemporary. So having this timber frame glazing was really key to making sure that it was in keeping with the rest of the house. So this has had a big transformation. The kitchen was at the back. We moved the kitchen along this wall here. I was really keen to have no wall units in this central space. I love decorative objects. We actually do use everything on the shelf, so it's not just for decoration. The bowls, the cups, the glasses, it's all a bit of a muddle, but it's just, I love it. It works, and because we use it, it kind of doesn't collect dust, and there aren't many places to have decorative items in kitchens, so it's really nice to have some open shelving. The colour of the units was actually inspired by the glazing. So that kind of sea foam green is one of my favourite colours. We painted the kitchen in this. I just knew it would be timeless because it works so well, the original stained glass. And we added these super pretty little brass shell handles. They're from Armac Martin. And the other really important thing to talk about in the kitchen, I think, is the island. So the island is just literally like a table. I mean, it's got loads of storage in it, but it doesn't have a hob, it doesn't have a sink. And I really played with, like, should we put the sink here? But actually I wanted it to feel like a piece of furniture. So it's on raised legs, so you can see the floor go all the way through. And sometimes islands can feel really kind of chunky and blocky, and I wanted it to feel really elegant. And I wanted you to see the whole aspect of the room kind of through the island, which is why we raised it on the legs. So the kids often have their breakfast here, but it's just a great prep space. And it also means you don't have your sink with all your washing up and old pans and things on, so it's just kind of clean. And I just love it. We've got quartz on the top because I wasn't allowed marble. So one thing my family were like, you can't have marble, but in my next incarnation I will have marble. But it's a pretty good it's a pretty good replacement for marble. It's like a quartz and it's really durable. And I had this OG edge put on the island as well because I thought that it made it feel a little bit more like a piece of furniture, and that contrasts with the edge, which is a clean square edge on the kitchen. Because again, we are blessed with really tall ceilings in this kitchen, I didn't want to have any spotlights, and that was quite contentious again with my husband at the time because he's a big cook. He was really worried about not having enough light. So we did a range of different lighting. There was no ceiling lights, spotlights at all. We've got these 3 pendants which give you really good task lighting over the island, and then I've got these wall sconces with long arms, and they give you task lighting over the island. But really importantly, I think in kitchens people forget about the low level lighting. So over in the corner here I have this quite unusual, decorative, really large lamp. We have that on all the time. It's lovely for evenings. It's lovely when you're eating your evening meal. I've also got another table lamp over here in the corner. And in fact, I've got another lamp. I've got a lot of lamps in here. I've got this really cute little vintage lamp on the shelf. But it really means you do not miss those spotlights. And in some kitchens where the ceiling is lower, you can't get away from them and you need them. But yeah, I just knew that we could get away with all these different layers of lighting, which is just much softer and warmer, but actually really practical as well in terms of task lighting. So my husband was worried he'd have to kind of make dinner with a head torch, but that's definitely not necessary. Okay, so this, I created this little kind of inbuilt sofa. I wanted somewhere where the family could kind of sit and chat. I was going to do an actual sofa here originally, and then when I saw the space, I thought it might lend itself better to something that was built in. And I did this. Scallops seem to be everywhere now, but I did do this about 6 years ago, and I can't quite remember where I saw the concept, but I just loved it, and I wanted to make it just an interesting, pretty kind of vignette from this side of the kitchen. So yeah, I mean, people lie in here, teenagers lie in here with a hangover. We sit here with a coffee and our breakfast, and it's a really nice aspect because you can see the island, you can see out to the garden. The dog sits here. It's very well used, and a nice kind of, I love bringing some soft additions to kitchens with so many hard surfaces. So it was a nice opportunity to bring in some colour and fabric. And this is one of my favourite paintings in the house. It's really kind of whimsical. It's from an online store called Arty, and the colours of the circus kind of go so well in the room. So I'm an interior designer, and I think when it comes to designing your home, it can be quite tricky. As an interior designer, I can walk into lots of different places and immediately see where I think the property should go, or develop the aesthetic of the client. But because we see so many beautiful things, sometimes it's quite hard to actually hone in on your own specific style. But I think we have quite a chaotic family life, and while I love colour and pattern, I wanted it to be done in quite a sympathetic, calming way for this house. So while there are lots of different colours you'll see throughout the home, they're often quite muted and soft. Sometimes the colour is brought through artwork, but yeah, I'm always thinking about how I could change things, obviously, and I may well change things up, but I think I wanted a continuity of a colour palette, which is really inspired by the original house, so the stained glass, but also the garden. And I can show you the garden now because the palette there is just so pretty and soft and green, and so many of the colours from the garden come through to the house. This is our garden, which is actually quite a good size for a London garden. We're really, really lucky. We rebuilt the wall at the back, but otherwise it's more or less kind of how we found it. We did some planting when we first arrived a few years ago, and I really wanted it to feel like a really kind of country garden in the city, so lots of roses. It's a really summer garden. Green, lots of different shades of green, and there's lots of layers to it. So there's trees, tall trees, smaller trees. It's a work in progress. It's not finished. But I love going to antique fairs, so I'm always collecting like these kind of French tables. So over here is one of mine. I mean, it's really kind of rusty, but I love it, and I put all my pots there. So yeah, it's one of my favourite things, is kind of just being in the garden. I feel like it's not work to me, whereas sometimes I feel, because I'm in interiors all the time, doing stuff in the house can feel an extension of that. But I really find being in the garden just really calming, and it's a lovely kind of mindful place for me to be. I love it. So yes, a lot of the colours inside the house I wanted to really marry with the colours in the garden. Okay, so welcome to our bedroom. This is the principal bedroom in the house, and it's not the largest bedroom, but it is the most peaceful because it overlooks the garden. So I knew I wanted this to be our bedroom. It's really light. It's just got a really lovely view onto all the back gardens of our road, which I love having a nosy in. And we did quite a lot of work to this room. We installed these wardrobes, which are actually supposed to be for both of us, but ended up just being for me. My husband has his stuff in the spare room. And I lined them with this pretty fabric because I find that just helps to stop that kind of blocky feel that these big built-in wardrobes could have. I want it just to look sort of pretty and soft. The fireplace was here originally, so again, we were really lucky to have that. And this fabric on the curtains was really key to the scheme, and it's one of my favourite prints. It's from GP&J Baker, and actually I found it on eBay as a remnant, and unfortunately, fortunately, I didn't quite have enough. So I decided to kind of top and tail it with this pink velvet at the top and the bottom, which is actually a really sweet feature, and it has this kind of grand tassels from Samuel & Sons. But yeah, this is just such a sort of typical traditional print, and it's an unusual colourway. I just love the kind of soft pinks and greens and the birds. And then I knew I wanted wallpaper in here, but I knew it also needed to be calming for a bedroom. So we have this like really subtle pinstripe wallpaper from Colfax and Fowler that sits really nicely against the curtains. This is a really nice place to sit and contemplate life, looking over the garden. It's this little mid-century sofa which I picked up for, about £50 I think in an antiques fair quite a few years ago. And then finally my dressing table is over here. It has this really oversized, kind of quite glamorous mirror from Julian Chichester, and again that just reflects the garden, so that's really nice to see that when you're sitting there. And it's got an interesting shape. This is a bit of a crazy lamp. It's kind of like a Regency Hollywood lamp, which I got on eBay I think for about 20 quid. And yeah, it's just a really peaceful, calm haven away from the kids, and we can go and see the ensuite next door because that's kind of in the space, which is really nice because it means that the girls can't use it. So we can go and have a look at that now. This is our ensuite bathroom. There wasn't room for a bath, so to compensate for that, we did a really big, generous walk-in shower. And this lovely vanity, which isn't antique, but it's got the feeling of a kind of French Parisian vanity. We used unlacquered brass, which from Water Monopoly, which is I've tried to use throughout the house. It really develops this lovely aged patina, which I think this gets better with age. And I don't really, I clean it, but I don't clean it until it's shiny because I just love the patination on it. The tiling's quite interesting. The tiler was, very, very patient, but I wanted it to have this almost like a 1940s European kind of feel in here. I want it to be tiled from top to bottom, and it has this pencil tile across the top and a dado, and it also has a skirting, and then the checkerboard floor kind of gives it quite a glamorous feel, and then the shape of the mirrors is quite kind of Art Deco. The mirrors are from an English company called Vaughan. And it's just it's a real sanctuary actually, this bathroom. I absolutely love it. So the bathroom is the original size. It had like a cubicle in, which I wanted to remove. So I wanted it to feel more open. So it felt like it didn't feel as spacious as this. So we actually built, instead of a built-in cubicle, we built this half wall, which is really successful in terms of creating a shower space, but keeping the sense of space and size. And yeah, it's just much more aesthetically pleasing than kind of lots of doors of glass. So if you come upstairs, the first of the bedrooms to show you is my youngest daughter's room. So come in. So this is my youngest daughter Sky's bedroom, and we worked on this together, this room. She is an interior designer in the make, and she was really keen to be involved. So to give her an element of choice, and I often do this with my young clients, is it's really important they feel involved and they're making decisions, but I try to give them edited options. So I was actually really pleasantly surprised that she chose this wallpaper, which is a William Morris design, called Daisy, which is the name of one of my other daughters. But it's just really classic, and I love that blue and white colour scheme. And we really took that and ran with it. So we did the stripy blind, and again another stripe and floral, and it has a really pretty little bead trim. We did obviously lots of blue and white cushions, and the paintwork is all in this kind of like a Wedgwood blue, which is really nice. The wardrobe is again in this sort of Wedgwood blue and has lovely kind of white trim. And again, I've added fabric to the back of the doors just to bring in some softness. And the same fabric is on this really cute little lamp, which is from Anthropology, and we had this lampshade made for it. And in fact, this is quite interesting, this section of the room, because she's only 10 and I knew that she would be growing into, she'd want some kind of dressing area. So there wasn't room for it because of the radiator. So I decided to build this kind of shelf, which almost like a console with a mirror on it. So when she's older, she can use this as her dressing table. But other pieces in the room which are quite important. So we did bring in some yellow to kind of throw in there with the blue and white, and make it feel kind of youthful and fun. This is a piece we found on eBay and I had painted. And then very importantly, her bed, which is quite a thing. We had this lovely canopy made because she is only 10. This will be really easy to take down when she's older, but she loves it, and she loves kind of going in and feeling really cozy and enclosed. And it's got this beaded trim on it again. She's probably got the best bed in the house, actually. It's the most comfortable, and she actually does make it like this every day with every pillow. I can't imagine where she gets that from. So we've got, oh my goodness, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fireplaces in the house. So this isn't a working fireplace, but this is a really particularly pretty fireplace actually. When we bought the house, the original tiles were really cracked and sort of falling apart. So we did actually replace the tiles on the hearth and on the sides. But yeah, the fireplace is original, and we're just really lucky because it does really give the room so much personality and character. And a really nice focal point as well. This is my middle daughter's bedroom, Tessa's room, and we're right at the top of the house here. So it's very peaceful. It's really, really high. So you have this like amazing view of all the gardens down below. Because this was an addition, this is a loft room that was added on. It doesn't have a fireplace, it doesn't have the kind of natural character, so we needed to add it. So we added it through the wallpaper, and actually again she chose this. She was very specific, yeah, she luckily chose this really soft, subtle floral print, and this is from Colfax and Fowler. And actually we recently did a makeover because she inherited this iron bed, and while I love the traditional look of iron beds, they're actually really uncomfortable to sit up, so to sit up against. So we had this headboard made and kind of tied on, which is a really kind of budget friendly way of making it sort of soft and usable. And then we also did this matching valance, and underneath here there's all her socks and storage you can see down there, and this really pretty quilt we added as well. And she's a big kind of sewer and collector, so we added a bookshelf for all her bits and pieces, and this really pretty vanity, which actually is just from IKEA, but we found this really cute brass mirror on here, and it's just a really, she's quite a manic character, so I was quite surprised that she chose such a sort of soft, peaceful scheme. So yeah, I was really pleased with her choice. So no, this and the bathroom, so it's strange because there's lots of little steps in between. So there's 3 floors, but then in between each floor there are like steps leading up, so there's almost like mezzanines. So it's great because it really gives a sense of space, so nobody feels like they're kind of next door to each other. So my other daughter's room, in fact my husband's office, which we'll go to in a minute, is on the same floor, but it's so far apart and up these kind of mini stairs that you get this amazing sense of space, which is why we just loved the house, because it's just unusual in a Victorian house to really have that sense of space with the stairs and the width of the hallways as well. So yeah, we're really, really lucky to be here for sure. So we're still on the top floor here, and we had this like huge vast wall which I just wanted to do something with. It just ended up having loads of handprints on it when it was painted, so I decided to put this wallpaper, which is a vintage print from William Morris, and it just serves to give this hallway some identity. Hallways can be really tricky to decorate because they can just feel really transitional and there's no focal points. So I created one really with this wallpaper, and it's so good at hiding handprints and dirt. I mean, whereas before it was a bit of an issue. And we also, this was an antique mirror from our old house, and there wasn't really anywhere to put it, but actually it looks quite nice here, and again gives the hallway a focal point. So coming up to my husband's office. Come through here. So this is the smallest room in the house, but it is a lovely room. It's very, very light and bright. When my husband does work from home, this is where he works because it's right at the top of the house, away from the chaos. And we painted it. This is a colour I'd been wanting to use, and it felt like this was the right room to use it in. It's called Smoked Trout by Farrow and Ball, and it's this lovely kind of dusky terracotta pink. And because this is a small room, I just thought, let's just go for it. And although it's quite dark, it doesn't actually feel dark. And I found this desk, which again I had painted in my favourite colour. It's blessed with a really cute little fireplace in here. It's got a chair, but although this is primarily his office, I needed it to also act as a guest room. So in the corner I had made this, I guess it's a day bed, And it's quite clever because it looks like a kind of sofa. I had the headboard made in a fabric from Mulberry Home and had it kind of cut into the eaves. So it looks really purposeful with these bolsters either side. But it's actually like a day bed, so you can pull it out and it turns into a double bed. But when it's not used, it's just quite a nice place to read and escape from the madness. The rug on the floor is actually part of a collaboration which I recently launched with a company called Bombay Sprout, and I designed several rugs with them for a collection, and I named them after my daughters. So this is called the Tessa rug, and it's in this lovely like mustard and aubergine colourway, and it just sits really well in this room. It really adds another layer of colour and pattern and coziness. So the desk, I really struggled to find, I wanted it to be an antique, but I just couldn't find the right size. So I actually found it, it was bare wood, and it was from a company called Scrumble Goosey in the UK. I think they do ship internationally as well. But the nice thing about it is that you can have it painted any colour. So I actually got them to paint it with this kind of like Swedish antique detail with the blue line, and it just fitted perfectly in the space. It's actually a really generous sized desk. It's actually a really lovely place to work up here. I'm not quite sure why my office isn't up here because it's so nice and quiet. But yeah, it's a really lovely space to work. So what makes a house a home? I think the answer to that has to be the people in it. To make a beautiful house is one thing, but to really live in it and to have your own pieces and to make it feel personal to the people who live in it really make it a home.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting the beautiful Victorian London townhouse of interior designer Pandora Taylor. Imbuing the walls with a varying blue color palette, she designed the spaces to feel soothing and collected, adding a mix of custom pieces, antiques, and bursts of pink throughout. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Pandora Taylor and this is my London home. So here we are in the entrance hall. As you'll see as we go around the house, lots of the rooms are quite bright and various shades of blue. Anyway, I always knew that I wanted the entrance to be a bit darker and moodier and just kind of experiment with a much darker space. And as you're not in it for very long, I thought perfect place. So painted the walls this sort of like moody, muted blue. And what I love is the all the architraves and the woodwork, which I painted this contrasting black, which you see throughout the whole house, which is quite bold. And then I found this amazing vintage Murano chandelier in this really fun like candy pink, and that sort of just pops so well against the blue, and then it kind of created this bit of a like pink theme going on. So then I picked a sort of pink runner to break up all the blue, and you'll see like bits of it throughout the hallway as well. So above the radiator, I always knew I wanted to find a great console table, but it had to have drawers to hide away all my rubbish. And it was just really, really hard actually to find a piece that could fit over the radiator, but had like a good depth, had drawers, etc. And I didn't want to spend loads of money on making something bespoke. So in the end, I found this amazing mid-century piece, which sort of ticked all the boxes and was absolutely fantastic. And I've actually made it since for clients because they love it as well. And then I just love these little decorative sconces either side of the mirror. I've never actually been brave enough to light the candles, but I feel like it would be a vibe. And then you'll also see around the house lots of kind of antiques, quite a lot of antiques actually. And I love this piece. This was actually hung in my grandma's hallway. And it's a map of the county where she lived, which is really sweet. So yes, there's lots of little things like that dotted around as well. So we moved into the house in 2019. And I was really familiar with the road because actually one of my best friends lived 2 doors down, which was a really cute coincidence. And we saw it for sale and I just thought, oh, we will never be able to afford it. Like, it's a really nice road. And eventually we went round it and it was an absolute wreck. So right up my street, obviously exactly what I was looking for. And basically it had been owned by the same people for something like 70 years. Had at some point had been 2 flats, then knocked back into 1, no central heating, electrics were all very strange. Didn't really have a kitchen. People always find that a bit weird, but it just didn't really have a kitchen. So basically everything you see is new, apart from we've obviously 100% kept the fabric of the building. And, you know, I love that it's all rickety and there's lots of uneven things and gaps between floorboards. You know, this is not a sort of perfect bones, but it's sort of, I love that aged quality of it. So yeah, so it was a fantastic find for an interior designer to have sort of absolute carte blanche to just create whatever I wanted in the space. Now I'm going to take you into our kitchen, so follow me. So what's interesting about this room is that the kitchen is at the front of the house, which for a classic sort of Victorian terrace is quite unusual. And the reason is because eventually one day we want to do a back extension so that, you know, it leads out into the gardens, all lovely. But for now, I mean, this is the best room in the house. And so it's amazing to be able to utilize this for the room that we're in the most. You know, you've got the lovely bay window, it gets flooded with natural light, especially in the afternoons. And I just love how kind of airy it is and enjoying all these original kind of cornices and features that we have in here. But the compromise is that the kitchen itself is sort of not that practical. You know, when you have a roast, suddenly you've used every single surface, including the table, but that's, you know, that's life. And this table was actually something that I had the tabletop, and then I had these table legs made in a metal yard. And it's quite a fun design, and I've actually done this quite a few times now, where I use sort of like raw steel to create these quite interesting table bases. The main thing that I wanted this kitchen to have was not really feel like a kitchen, and I think because we were always eventually in our heads going to turn it into a living room, I wanted to sort of impact the space as little as possible. So the idea is that, you know, one day when this sort of becomes the living room, we can just remove this run of kitchen and essentially, decorate, but essentially that's all you would need to do. You know, we've not sort of tampered too much with the sort of bones or the fabric of the room and kept all the original features. So that meant having no high-level cabinets. So instead we use these shelves, which I absolutely love, and they're super handy, and it means it's great that you can see exactly what you need and what you need to refill. I mean, they do get quite messy, but that's just a side note. And it just keeps the room really light and fresh and not kind of overly overbearing. One of my favourite pieces in the room is this beautiful artwork by a French artist. He's actually a photographer, but he does this really clever thing where he puts a painted canvas behind the still life and then photographs it. So it has a real painterly effect and looks like a sort of Dutch still life. And I just really wanted to utilize this really big, beautiful wall, but didn't want to kind of damage the artwork in any way from the hob below. So I encased it in this Perspex box, which actually has worked pretty well so far. So that's good. And then one of my other favorite things in this room is this toile, Italian mid-century toile chandelier, which is super fun and just kind of like, you know, adds a bit of like craziness to the room, with Hum London hand-painted shades, who are this really cute like British brand that they started in lockdown, just from their kind of front room. But they do these really great custom painted shades as well, which I love. So we were really lucky in this space that there were so many beautiful original features still intact. I think because the previous owners really had not touched it at all, including these beautiful original shutters that we kind of stripped back of all the paint and left their natural kind of like pine. But they are in absolutely fantastic order, seeing as they are kind of over 100 years old. So yeah, there's lots of little things like that dotted around as well, which is great that we were able to keep them. We cook a lot. The kitchen is definitely one of our, favorite places to hang out. And so yeah, it definitely was something that I thought about quite practically. But, in an ideal world, I would have wanted to, come out a bit more, and somehow, originally I was sort of thinking about having a sink in the bay window area just to create more worktop space, but actually, it works perfectly well. One of the newest additions to the space is this beautiful kind of etching print by an Irish artist. And I've had my eye on it for a long time, and I just love the colour tone of this sort of burnished green at the back and the pink. I mean, I'm not normally drawn to sort of floral elements, but it just has a really great energy about it that kind of worked perfectly in the room. Coming into the kitchen, this room I knew I wanted to be really bright and light and sort of daytime. So I painted the walls in this sky blue with sort of white accents. So it's a complete sort of, opposite from you come out from the hall with the dark elements, and then this is all kind of like light blue and white elements. And then it's in direct contrast to the living space, which is connected. So now I'll take you into the living room. So I had to think really carefully about the living room and the kitchen because they open up onto each other. That was actually kind of the only real structural thing we did in the property, was to create this opening between the two spaces. And so this colour scheme wise is basically what's going on in the entrance hall. So again, this room is kind of like moody and cozy and a little sort of like cocoon in sort of the antithesis for the bright and airy kitchen. And this room actually went through quite a few different iterations in the planning, sort of like in the concept phase. And I think definitely being an interior designer and you are just inundated with choice, and I had a bit of choice paralysis, if I'm honest, but I really love how it ended up. Well, I think the where it came from was the wall colour was new, like around that time from Farrow & Ball, and I fell in love with it. And then I saw this fabric from Guy Goodfellow, which I absolutely love as well, and I've used it in so many projects since. But I just loved how the green and the blue tones really played on the wall colour. And so the scheme kind of all basically built out of that. So there's lots of greens and blues, earthy tones. I think the next thing that I also fell in love with was tapestry, and I wanted to have tapestry in here in some elements. So I thought a lot about what that might look like. And in the end, I got this tapestry wallpaper, which I used either side of the fireplaces. And it's from this fantastic company who they actually restore tapestries. So they have access to all these fantastic original antique tapestries, and they digitally print them. So literally it looks so tactile, like it looks like you could touch it and it would actually be, ancient linen or cotton or whatever. And actually it's just wallpaper. So there you go. And then the fireplaces. So originally, oddly, I don't know what had happened to the fireplaces, but there were no kind of interesting mantelpieces in any of the house, and I don't know if that's original or, they're all very simple timber, like painted timber, simple designs. So I got rid of, I think I actually took all of them out, and I wanted to create something kind of really bold and simple, and there's a lot going on in this room. So this, I think they actually call it Pocahontas marble, which is quite a fun name. It was sort of drawn from the tapestry wallpaper, all those kind of earthy, kind of quite coppery tones, ochres and things. It feels quite bark-like. So that was sort of tying all of that in. What I love about this space is that lots of the artwork is things that I've sort of collected over the years, but also lots of my own pieces. So basically, if you see anything that has a dog in it, I've probably done it. I went through a real screen printing phase, so there's loads of these dotted around because I'm slightly obsessed. And then, gallery wall, it's such a classic look, but it's just so fantastic to be able to get all those little things that you've collected over the years and sort of see how they work together. So I kind of love this wall, and it's it's sort of memories from family and pieces that I did when I was at art school, and then sort of professional artists as well. So it's great to have them all on show. And then, this is a really lived-in space. So this is sort of our mini library here. Again, just sort of becomes a dumping ground for all my little bits. I'm a bit of a knick-knack person. And in terms of the layout for this space, because it connects to the kitchen, I really wanted to sort of feel that connection. And you know, this is a room for kind of relaxing with friends and, you know, watching TV normally. So it had to function like that. But I also wanted the spaces to feel connected. So I designed this curved sofa that sort of, you know, curves around. And so when you're sitting here, you really are just sort of, you know, you're connecting with the people in the kitchen. It's very much sort of has this flow of connecting the two spaces. And what's great is that they actually come apart. So sometimes when we're feeling like it, normally in sort of winter when we block these doors, we pull this part of the sofa over here, and it gives like great flexibility to the space as well. So yeah, so I actually looked for ages to find a kind of off-the-shelf version of this sofa that was sort of like fitted the right space and, you know, proportions and things. And curved sofas tend to be quite massive. So I just thought I would design one myself. Had never designed a curved sofa quite like this before. And actually, you know, it works quite well. And, you know, that's something as an interior designer we do a lot of. You know, we create a lot of bespoke furniture pieces all the time, you know, when it's sort of required like that, and sort of just to create more fun elements that, you know, you're not going to see anywhere else. So this footstool is also by our studios. This is a Pandora Taylor humbug stool. And I designed it actually first for this space. And because I didn't want a coffee table kind of taking up all the room that you constantly have to walk around. So this is, I actually used to have two, but so these kind of move around and people use them as footstools or to sit on when we've got loads of people here. And again, it's just, you know, making that flexibility for a space to make it work for, you know, anything that life throws at you. And then again, as I said in the hallway, that you will see lots of antique pieces dotted around the space. So this is actually one of my favorite finds. I'm really into tallware, and it's actually a bit of a shame that I tried to have a piece made with it, but it's quite hard to find people that still do it. So you've got to snap these pieces up while you can. Originally, it would have been a sort of tray that comes off the base, but it's fixed now. But yeah, the green and everything about it just sort of really spoke to me for this room. To things like this sort of really heavily gilt framed mirror, which I love, and just sort of dotted around. And then this is sort of my kind of mad collection of bits. I couldn't even tell you where I've got all of this stuff over the years, but you know, I'm like a magpie, you know, I see these things that I love and then they end up on the shelves. So this is one of my favorite ceramic pieces by a Dutch, or maybe she's Dutch, artist called Dumb Ceramica, which I think is a perfect name. So that's the newest piece to come. This room doesn't have any overhead lighting, no spotlights, no pendants, because I wanted to keep it really kind of moody and soft. And I have a weird thing about mid-century bulb lighting. I didn't know that I had it, but I'm extremely drawn to them. So the piece behind us actually is, or over there, is a kind of classic mid-century floor lamp. You'll see quite a lot of them. But I used one in a project and absolutely fell in love with it, and it just fits perfectly in that space. And then these pieces behind me, they were actually left over. They're from an American brand called Allied Maker. And they had sent us the wrong size and then never asked for them back because like shipping to America is so expensive. So I managed to kind of make them into a full light by getting a light fixing behind them and using them there, which I absolutely love. Oh yeah, and then this is actually one of my favorite pieces, the little shell lamp, which I saw on a vintage site and again fell in love with, and sort of before I knew I'd purchased it. But it's absolutely one of my favorite pieces, and again it's this sort of candy pink that you see kind of dotted out over the house. So we like to entertain a lot, and definitely it sort of, you know, ends up starting milling in the kitchen, overflows when everyone gets a bit more tired or, you know, whatever, sitting in the sofa. And then, yeah, it's great because it opens right up into the garden. And, you know, sometimes we eat outside if we can, it being England, not very often. But yeah, so this is sort of the main heart of the home, really. So now I'll take you to the next room in the house, which is the master bathroom. Before we get to the bathroom, I just want to show you this little sort of first landing, which again has sort of grown with us in the house and turned into one of my favorite spaces. So originally we didn't have any of this joinery here. This we only put in sort of around Christmas time, and it's great. Before it felt like the space was relatively small, and it's weird how you add more furniture and actually a space can feel even bigger and more generous. So this is for kind of all our books, the spillover from the library. It's all our books and kind of more knickknacks, obviously. And I just love how the pink breaks up the, you know, expanse of the darker blue tone. And then this rug, actually, I had intended to hang on the wall down the staircase. Turns out it's actually an extremely heavy rug, and my hanging skills didn't quite bear up to the weight of it, so actually put it here and works perfectly. And it's also the little spot where my dog likes to hang out all day, so made it nice for him. So yeah, now we'll come into the master bathroom. I mean, again, another blue room. I think you might be getting a sense that I'm slightly obsessed with blue. But I mean, honestly, it just kind of is the best colour. So this is sort of like a mid-tone blue, so it's sort of like fresh and vibrant and kind of really gets you going for the morning. And this room actually was kind of born out of these shower tiles. So if you come in here and look at these, everyone says they're very retro. That kind of wasn't really my intention, but I guess, you know, looking at them now, I do see that. And kind of like pink and reds, it's not normally colour tones that I'm drawn to, but I saw them at a trade show and just kind of was so drawn to them because they were so unusual and I hadn't seen anything like that before. So I thought I had to have them, and then kind of built the scheme up around those. This sort of crazy marble floor, which the builder had not such great things to say about, but I mean, we won't go in there. But I think it's fantastic, and basically I took the tiles and the paint colour to the marble yard, and I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go in, and I put them against the green and they just all kind of popped like big time, and I just fell in love with the scheme. And yeah, every time I come in here, I mean, I absolutely love this room. You know, it's so much energy, kind of hits you from all angles, and it just kind of weirdly all works together. So I toyed with a few different layouts for this space, and originally this was just a bathroom, and then the shower space was a separate WC, but we connected them, knocked them through, and created this arched opening into the shower. So yeah, I toyed with various aspects of, you know, maybe putting the WC in there and all these things, but basically, realistically, wanted the vanity unit to have as much space, be super functional, you know, definitely wanted to have the 2 sinks. So this wall kind of worked perfectly for it. And I had this bespoke piece of joinery made, and I wanted it to feel kind of interesting and not just like a bathroom cabinet that you kind of see everywhere. And so I created this, it's sort of inspired by old shop furniture, you know, when you see like huge banks of drawers. And I found these vintage cabinet handles that I loved, that I knew I wanted to use. And yeah, I mean, again, I absolutely love this piece, and I haven't really seen anything like this around, and that's what I like to do with my interiors, is I'm always thinking, you know, of what I can do to make this slightly different to, you know, just everything that you see on a day-to-day basis. Also, one of my favourite things has to be this cafe curtain that I actually made. And this was my first ever cafe curtain, and I thought it went pretty well. And it's made out of a sewn fabric. That she does these incredible kind of, she calls them linen lawn fabrics, but they're just perfect for cafe curtains with this subtle kind of scrolling fern design on it. But it just softens up the space. I mean, obviously it's for privacy, but it just adds so much more than that. And, you know, when clients come to me and they say, oh, I don't know if I want curtains, you know, I always say yes, because they just sort of totally finish a space and kind of lift it to somewhere you want to live, basically. So this is the master bedroom, and this is probably the biggest room in the house. And I came from a flat that had a very tiny bedroom, which you sort of had to clamber over the bed to get to all sorts of angles of the room. So this was absolutely such a treat to have so much space. And I toyed with the idea of kind of like dividing it into an ante-chamber that would have the dressing area in that space because it has its own window. But actually, I love that we didn't, and although it might annoy me that my husband wakes me up every morning getting dressed, actually it's you know, it's such a privilege in London to have such a big space for one room. So I mean, yeah, I mean the biggest feature in this space are the built-in wardrobes, and I spent a long time kind of working out exactly what we needed and space-wise, and then wanted to keep them sort of simple. You know, I didn't want them to sort of become overbearing or be too overly designed. So I just used this natural burnt oak veneer with these fantastic French design handles, which I was also crushing on at the time. And yeah, so I mean, it might look quite full, but you know, in essence, it's quite a simple, pared back for me design. And it's quite a tall room. So, you know, some people might have thought to go all the way up to the ceiling, but actually, you know, I wanted to keep the cornice intact. You know, I didn't want to sort of disrupt the fabric of the room too much, and, you know, I kind of think it works perfectly as it is. So I talked about how I changed all of the fireplaces that we sort of kept, and this is no exception. And I'd sort of designed the whole room and then still couldn't work out what I wanted to do with the space, with the fireplace. I thought about looking for kind of antique marble piece, you know, that was like really wow, or all sorts of ideas. But A, I didn't want it to cost too much, and B, I just wanted, again, to sort of something that, you know, all the kind of antique pieces just didn't sit quite right with the room, and, you know, what I was trying to say, you know, they wouldn't have been in a bedroom of this, you know, in this house, in that room. You know, it didn't feel authentic to me. So I went completely different, and I'd actually been inspired by the Berlinium. They do tiles and bathrooms, but they do some amazing in situ kind of ideas of their tiles, and they'd done an amazing kind of real mid-century, again, that kind of retro vibe fireplace in some of these terra firma tiles. So that kind of gave me the idea. And then, so I used their tiles and sort of designed this piece, which was a bit like creating a kind of Tetris piece, because I was, you know, fixed by the shape and size of the tiles. So that kind of determined the width and the height and basically how it all worked. But what's come out is fantastic, because it's sort of, you know, it's totally kind of random and different to what you normally see, but somehow it sort of works with all the other elements in the space. And I think part of that is the colorway, the kind of black and the greens. It kind of really works. And then the artwork above it was actually something that I bought from an art fair. I didn't have anywhere to put it, but just absolutely loved it. And just, I really like the idea of, you know, artwork can be really hard to source when you're kind of looking for it. So I feel like when you find something that you love, you kind of just have to go for it and then find somewhere to put it later. But again, weirdly, like absolutely perfectly goes in here with the scheme. And yeah, absolutely love it. And then love these. These are by a plasterwork artist called Viola Linari. And I've used these in quite a lot of my projects now, because you just can't not love them. So all my clients love them and they all want them as well, which is totally fair enough. And then this space sort of grew quite a lot. You know, at the beginning it was quite bare, and then, you know, I found these antique dogs, which I fell in love with, and these little artworks I inherited from my grandma, and again wanted a cute place to put them, and it just sort of all worked together. And then when I created the scheme for this room, it started with these curtains. So they're a Lewis and Wood fabric, and they have this kind of faded, like purposefully faded quality, which, you know, has quite a sort of country house, traditional English feel to it, but they're in sort of these crazy colours. So it's sort of almost like lime green and sky blue and the kind of coppery tones again. And that's where I pulled all the kind of other colours and fabric schemes from for the room. So then for the bed, always knew that I wanted to create a kind of really high impact bed. So, you know, it's a big room, big spaces, lots of wall. And again, I've got the kind of sky blue walls in here, because kind of basically my favourite colour. And wanted the space to feel light and bright, but also, you know, have impact. So knew I wanted to do something big with the bed, and I toyed with having a kind of canopy style, but didn't want to fight with my amazing curtains. So settled on a headboard, but just, it was in a period where I was really trying to experiment with shape and what furniture should look like, and kind of breaking boundaries a bit. So I was just really tired of seeing kind of like rectangular headboards. So I created this headboard that's got kind of like really severe angles, and it sort of comes out further than the width of the bed in a kind of asymmetric style. And it was actually this sort of like weird kind of like semi-awake, semi-asleep dream I had. It just sort of kind of came, like appeared to me basically. And I just sort of had to do it. It's kind of mad, but I absolutely love it. And then above, this was a later addition. Again, it was a piece that I kind of saw in a show, loved it, didn't have anywhere to put it. And this was actually the only space we had enough wall space because everything else is covered in shelves and artwork. But the kind of oranges really go, and it picks up on all the other black tones in the room. So even though, yeah, my husband thinks it's a bit of a weird sort of subject matter to have in the bedroom, but I mean, I think it works. And then the bedside tables, something I designed for this space. I was kind of experimenting with this design a bit because I'd sort of fallen in love with this kind of style. And so I created two different ones. One's got a cupboard and one's just a drawer. And I sell them on my website as well. But they're just sort of like the perfect bedside table, basically. You know, everything you want, super smart. And again, it's like picking up on all those grounding black tones that are sort of dotted throughout the kind of quite bright room. And then fell in love with these lamps. They're by Bert Frank, who are a fantastic British designer company. And yeah, again, I sort of loved how everything in here is slightly, there's not a sort of theme. It's not kind of traditional, or it's not kind of all mid-century, but it's just got sort of each piece is individual to itself and doesn't kind of match, but weirdly goes. Although having said that, I do have a lot of mid-century pieces, and this armchair is no exception. Again, it was that sort of thing of seeing it online, falling in love with it, and then sourcing it. And there's a design that normally comes in leather, like how it was originally made in the sort of 60s, it was normally always in leather. But the leather was like not that great. So had it reupholstered in linen and this incredible sheepskin from Sweden, which yeah, is actually the comfiest chair I've ever sat in. And once you get in it, you kind of don't really ever want to get out. And luckily, we have all the space, so it was basically the only place it can fit, 'cause it's quite big. So this is the nursery space, and this is probably one of the kind of newest rooms. This was originally a guest bedroom, and I designed it with this amazing kind of ombre blue walls as a sort of feature wall from which the bed would sit. And up the kind of ombre wall is this incredible kind of mad headboard, which sort of bubbles up in the kind of water, it looks like. So again, this was actually designed at the same time as the master bedroom headboard. I don't know what was going on in my brain. I'd obviously been thinking a lot about headboards. And yeah, again, it sort of thought about it fully formed and thought, I've not seen that before, so I have to do that. And when we turned this room from a guest bedroom into the nursery, I knew I had to keep the headboard and this obviously amazing ombre wallpaper. And it just turned actually into the perfect space to put the cot. And I love that it's kind of still looks sort of made for the space. So I was really chuffed with being able to keep that. And then these two tables or chest of drawers either side were also originally the bedside tables, and because they're such big pieces and there's so much storage in them, again, it kind of just worked really well for the nursery as well. And so we've sort of fashioned one into a changing area, and these were the original bedside lamps. Now one of them's somewhere else. But yeah, it just kind of, it's great how a space can evolve with you. And you know, you can think so long and hard about the exact pieces for the perfect room, for the perfect space, but actually you just don't really know what's going to happen. And it's great that things can be flexible and change with you. So this is one of the scallop rugs from Jennifer Manners, which again went through a phase of absolutely loving, and I love it in this space and it works perfectly. And then this interesting kind of floor lamp is a piece that I used for a project a long time ago, and for various reasons I was able to get my hands on it, and I'd always loved it, always sort of dreamt of owning it because it's just such a bizarre piece, probably not very child friendly with lots of sharp edges, but for now I love it in the space, and it creates all that, you know, levels of lighting, which I love. This is an armchair that I designed just to sort of for another project actually, and this was the kind of, you know, initial kind of design piece, and works perfectly in here, and it's a fantastic kind of nursing chair. It's absolutely huge. Stick loads of cushions on it, and again the sort of colour scheme just really worked in the space. And then onto the interesting shelves. So originally this room was obviously the guest bedroom come shoe room. So I didn't have anywhere to put all my shoes from the master bedroom. So designed these shelves to sort of kind of like display all my shoes. So sadly had to give that over to baby stuff, but I love them. And I love, you know, they have that kind of plinth-like feel to them. And they're just made out of kind of just basic moldings that you get from B&Q. And then we turn them into these sort of floating plinths, which is just quite like a fun, unusual design. Another thing that I love in this space is this huge artwork. And again, this actually came from the same project as the little floor lamp. And again, it's just funny how life works. But this, you know, there's a piece that I always lusted after. It's really cool. It's sort of based on an old vintage artwork that this artist sort of reimagined. And it's just such a big size, and the subject matter is quite fun. And yeah, just had this huge wall empty, and then was able to get my hands on it for a really good price. And yeah, that's one of my favorite things in the whole room. I also wanted to talk about for the cot, didn't really know how to kind of make cots interesting. So we just ended up getting like a really sort of, you know, nice sort of like standard cot. And then I had this idea of creating a valance for it in quite like a fun fabric. And this is fabric that I'll point out to you, but that I've used in another space. And I had loads of other fabric ideas that I wanted to use, and then actually I found I had loads of this fabric left over. It's actually from our wedding. We used it on a sort of arbor that we got married under. It just sort of worked perfectly here, and I didn't actually really need to kind of do anything with it because I already had a finished edge. So I literally just put it up there, and yeah, it kind of brings all the green tones in, the pinks. Yeah, it's always really nice when you can reuse things and it just sort of fits perfectly. So we wanted this space to be kind of whimsical and, you know, child-friendly, but it didn't necessarily need to scream kind of baby or children. And again, it's that idea that I want them to grow up into it. So we sort of picked on different sort of whimsical bits. So I added these shelves actually to this niche with this cute little scallop design. And then, you know, obviously it had this quite fun base element anyway from when it was a guest bedroom. So I just added in sort of more colour and a bit more kind of detail that sort of jazzed it up and made it feel a bit more childlike. And obviously it's got all his toys and things. And then more dog art, obviously, everywhere you look. Now I'll take you to the second bathroom. So this is the second bathroom, and it's essentially basically the same footprint as the first bathroom, but just not with that extra additional shower area. And this room I always envisaged as being kind of more the children's bathroom. So yeah, again, sort of like a bit more playful in here, a bit more decorative, but again, you know, it's not for children, it's just like a really cool, nice design. And love Zalige tiles, so always knew I wanted to use them in some aspect, and wanted to play on the fact that, you know, they're already kind of tonally variegated, and that's like why they're so amazing. And so I sort of increased that twofold by introducing 3 different colours and doing it in this quite cool herringbone design, which absolutely just sort of draws the eye in. And the walls are, again, that kind of dusky pink that you see sort of dotted around the house. So yeah, weirdly, I sort of have an all pink and blue house. Don't know where that came from, but there we are. And yeah, again, so lots of, you know, love an antique. So found this little bobbin chair that just sort of fits perfectly there, and used this sort of like scrap of leftover fabric that I had that I just did not know. I always keep these things because you just never know when you're going to use them, and it just fit perfectly for this stool cover. So that was very pleasing. And so in here, no kind of big chunky pieces of inbuilt furniture. I love this kind of totally smooth, kind of quite classic looking vanity by Lefroy Brooks. And it's great because it's, you know, it's got so much space around it. And originally I was going to do a kind of custom vanity mirror. So this was going to be concealed, but then, you know, I just sort of had this mirror already and just kind of worked, and maybe one day I'll do it. It's nice to give yourself space to kind of add to your home. So you see another cafe blind in here as well, in the same fabric. And we were really lucky with how big the windows are in these 2 bathrooms, because other houses along the road have sort of much smaller ones. So I love how much natural light you get in them. We're really spoiled. And then for the bath, filled like this whole space with the bath, and we've got essentially what turns into kind of plant overflow, but it's actually great for watching TV in the bath. So you just like put your laptop here and like kind of works quite well. But yeah, it's great to have sort of like different places to put things in the bathroom, so it worked quite well. So now we're in the top of the house, and this is the last remaining guest bedroom, as I gave the other one away to my beautiful baby. And this one was, I think I designed this room last, and by that point had used every shade of blue under the sun and thought, no, come on, we've got to think of something different here. So what's kind of a natural progression from blue, green, and I hadn't really used any wallpaper either. So I knew this was a space that I wanted to kind of get some wallpaper in. And I found this amazing Zach & Fox wallpaper. It's actually an American designer. It's just really cool. It sort of has that, I'm really drawn to kind of patterns that are sort of traditional in their vibe, but not actually traditional, not overly chintz or country house. And this just has this really interesting, it almost looks like hieroglyphs, I feel, but yeah, it's just a kind of like random pattern in this gold. And then, so this was the kind of inspiration for the room. And then I painted everything green and found this gorgeous little green color called Jewel Beetle, which is a fantastic name and is, from all my research, the most vibrant and kind of like delicious kind of darkish green. And then I sort of didn't really know what to do for the bed, but was sourcing for another project and came across this antique brass bed, and I just thought it was absolutely perfect for this space because it pulls on the gold from the wallpaper. So all in all, it sort of has turned into what I call like the granny annex, and funnily enough, all the grannies do like to stay here. And again, it's got lots of things that I've sort of inherited from my grandma, these beautiful like Staffordshire pieces, and I found these candle sconces in an antiques market, which I thought were quite cool. So created this kind of little moment around the fireplace, which not actually a fireplace. So this is actually, has a radiator behind it, and I wanted to create, the kind of feel of a fireplace, but functionally, it's actually just a radiator. So again, this is the same fabric that I used on the cot valance in the nursery. And it's just perfect because it's quite thin, and so it lets all the heat in, but it just hides the radiator below. And then it's just a great little shelf to use for all sorts of bits. And then we quite simply just sort of hung a rail in here. By this point, we're sort of running out of steam. So the things got a little bit more simple. And it's sort of used as kind of overflow from the wardrobe down there. But it ends up being a sort of perfect little room, basically. And it's got all sorts of fun bits. So I designed this bedside table for another project, and we now sell it on our website, but I love it in here. And then, just all these sort of little quirky bits that kind of find their way into this room when I don't know where else to put them, with this sort of hand-embroidered lamp, which is sort of quite cool. So this was an old chest of drawers that I had already, and I kind of just managed to squeeze the bed and the chest of drawers in this kind of Tetris setup. So it works perfectly. And this beautiful kind of mirror sits on it, like just the right size. And again, this was another piece that I inherited from my grandma. So there's so many of her pieces. I'm very fortunate to be able to keep lots of them that you sort of see dotted around the house. And it's really nice because they're pieces that are so familiar to me, and now seeing them kind of on a daily basis in a new environment is really, sometimes I think about them during the day, which is really nice. So for me, what makes a house a home is really having all of your favorite bits around you. I mean, as you know, I've sort of run you through everything, and what you'll probably take from it is that there's lots of kind of art collected over the time, art that I've made myself, all my kind of weird knickknacks that I've fallen in love with. And you know, it's just creating that space where you feel completely safe to like have all of your loved pieces on display. And yeah, that's what makes my house my home.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting interior designer Leanne Kilroy's London terraced house. After an extensive renovation, she transformed her family home into a bright and serene haven. Each room reflects her long-standing love of unique furnishings, a trait inherited from her father, who owned an antique furniture store her whole life. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Leanne Kilroy. Come on into my house in London. So this is the entryway to the house, and as with most Victorian terraced houses, it's very narrow and quite dark. So actually one original feature in the house that we absolutely loved was this archway. All of the houses in the terrace have it, and we were very lucky that the previous owners had installed this mirror. And so what it does is it makes it feel like we might actually have a room on that side. It just makes the hallway feel really, really big and bright. Our kids love to dance in front of it. Everyone loves to take a selfie in front of it. It's just a feature that I absolutely adore. And we kind of made it a little bit nicer by putting a piece of marble on the low original radiator, not original, but probably 1980s radiator. And it just makes the feel of the space a bit elegant and impressive right when you walk in. Another thing we loved about this house were the original details in the ceiling, and the hallway was no exception. So we've got amazing kind of cornicing and corbels on the ceiling, and this carries through the ground floor and up into the first floor as well. Another thing I love about this hallway is this sign, the neon sign that my husband gave me one year for an anniversary. It's a poem, it's a line of a poem that I absolutely adore, and I just think that he got pink was kind of perfect, and I really love it there. It just brings me joy every time I see it. What else? I love this pendant light. It's a Moravian star. It doesn't really cast that much light, unfortunately, but I love the way it sparkles in the hallway and just adds a little bit more light into what otherwise would be quite a dark space. One other little thing I love is just behind us here. It's this beautiful little plaster shelf that I got at a shop in Paris, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just fell in love with it, completely fell in love with it. The shop is called Serene, and it's in Saint-Germain-du-Pré, and I just adore it. So every time I come in, I think about how much I love this silly little plaster shelf. We put a candle with our house number on the shelf, and actually when we light it, it makes the smell go all the way up through the house, through the stairwell. So yeah, these are just little things in the space that bring me a lot of joy. One other thing that I love is this little guy down here. He's a boot taker offer. And I found him in Denmark in a flea market, and just another little quirky thing that I love about this hallway. We bought the house about 3 and a bit years ago. And when we did, it was a loved family home, but also a boarding house. So it had 7 bedrooms at the time, kind of the rooms were chopped up. The downstairs rooms were also being used as bedrooms, and it wasn't in the greatest shape. This floor in particular had carpet everywhere, and it was just a bit shabby. So when we moved in, the very first thing we did, like day one, is we ripped up all the carpets, and we discovered that there were beautiful, beautiful original floorboards underneath. In some spots, they needed a little bit of help, a little replacing, but in general, they're wonderful. So the way that we kind of made the original floors come back to life is we sanded them down so that they were raw, and then in most rooms in the house, we used a Danish lye to bleach them, essentially, and then we used a lacquer, a hard-wearing lacquer on top. So they have this Scandinavian clean feel to them, and I just adore them. We've also done the same to the stairs, And we tried, in the extension, which you'll see later, we tried to match the new flooring to the old without pretending that it was old flooring, because there's no point in pretending. Yeah, and the floors are some of my favorite bit in the house. They're a bit drafty, they're original, but you get what you get with an old house. Let's go into the living room. Now we're in the living room. This is a really traditional front room of a London terraced house. We're in the middle of a terrace, so all of the houses next to us we're all kind of joined together as townhouses, and we're all exactly the same house. We were lucky enough to have an original fire surround in this house when we moved in, but we didn't even know it was there because this room was just so covered in stuff and televisions and everything. We weren't even sure if that was going to be in the room, and we were very lucky that it was. We haven't really done anything to it actually, so it's the original everything. It could use a little bit of restoration, but we just haven't gotten there yet. We completely fell in love with the ceiling in this room, so we did replaster it, but when we were doing that, I made sure that the builders secured the original cornicing and rows so that they wouldn't fall down. I was just completely in love with the cornicing, which is just as beautiful in the adjacent room. When we bought the house, this room was completely closed off from that room because they were being used as bedrooms. So I found these doors on eBay actually, and we built this opening to fit them. And it's a little bit off center actually because we had to make sure that this could swing open and still allow for a piece of furniture in the corner. So that's why it's a little bit quirky, but it works for us. And we can always close them off if the kids want to have their kind of private space in the middle. We can close the doors, and then we have kind of two separate spaces if we need to. So something to know about me is that my dad had an antique furniture store for my whole life in Boston, and it closed during the pandemic. And so my whole kind of childhood and upbringing was always quite full of really lovely furniture. And so furniture has a really special place in my heart, and a lot of it comes from him. So this beautiful mid-century desk, I got that on a trip with my dad in Denmark. We just fill it with kind of mementos and family photos. And this sofa as well, this amazing mid-century sofa, which has been upholstered in lamb's wool. It's also from a trip to Denmark with my dad. He gave me this beautiful post office, which I use as like a little children's bookcase when I went off to university many, many moons ago. And I've always taken it around the world with me. And this is also another piece from him. It's a bar cart. It's a little bit tricky to open, but it's full of all the booze in the house. And I just think it's just such a special spot, special little piece, and just a really nice thing to have in a terraced house, especially with these alcoves that you kind of have to fill. I really adore this bar cart. Other bits and bobs that I love are the houseplants. I have a lot of them, as you will see, and I just tend to grow them from cuttings, and they bring me a lot of joy, especially in the depth of a British winter, which can be very, very dark. Another little bit that I love is this lampshade from Matilda Gode, and it's on a separate base. Another special bit in this room is this ottoman from my friend Jody at the house upstairs. She's so brilliant for kind of bespoke pieces. I just adore her, and the fabric is from Buchanan Studio. I am not the kind of person who upholsters things for myself, usually just for clients, but I just love the house upstairs and Buchanan Studio so much. So that's something that I love and try to keep the cat from scratching every single day. Another bit I love in the whole house, I have them everywhere, are jute rugs. I just cannot recommend them enough. I use them everywhere. They're inexpensive, they're very hard wearing, and I love the texture and feel they add to a room. So jute rugs, you will see them everywhere in this house. They're just my favorite way to cover a floor. So with these big Victorian bay windows, which are amazing and let in so much light, there comes the issue of privacy. So what I did kind of at the tail end of a long reno with no money left, I bought some really inexpensive fabric. They're actually curtains, and I cut them and just hemmed the bottom with hemming tape. It was the easiest DIY, and I love it so much. I use them all throughout the house. This is from Habitat, and I think it cost £12. So in terms of getting kind of made to measure cafe curtains for a big bay window, I think we did pretty well. And in fact, these curtains are also quite budget. They're from H&M Home. They look like linen, but they're not. And I love the way the light shines through them. I think it's really, really pretty. In fact, this whole room is really light and bright. It's a south-facing room. We're so lucky to have the light coming in almost all of the time. And this wall color actually, I was going for kind of like a dirty, natural gray, and when I actually put it on the wall, it has a blue seafoam undertone, and it is so wonderful. I just love it. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I was planning, but I love it anyway. I love it so much. Another thing that kind of makes the room feel brighter is the original skirting boards, which I think are called floorboards in America, but I'm not sure, are quite high, and they were stripped already when we moved in, actually. So I just kind of gave them a whitewash in order to kind of lighten everything and bring it just like a little bit to be the same color as the doors and the floors. I did the same with the window frame. Yeah, they're not exactly the same tones, but it really doesn't bother me. This is a really old house. It's lived so many lives. So I really like the stories that all of these different kind of woods and textures and patterns tell. So these maps, we've got one in each alcove. They're really special. I love them. They're just off Etsy, but they show kind of our neighborhoods of London, the neighborhoods that we've lived in. And these are Charles Booth poverty maps. A lot of people actually have them because they're so lovely. I think in around the late 1898, Charles Booth and a bunch of people went around London and marked which streets were lived in by which class of people. It was a way of kind of shedding light on the poverty in Victorian London, and I just find them so fascinating. So these are just kind of prints I had made off Etsy. I framed them myself off an online framer. So really inexpensive way to kind of make the room feel a bit more elegant and bring a little bit of like our neighborhood to the room, which I really love. Okay, shall we go into the library now? So I call it a library, but it's definitely a kid's room. This is where our kids play and write and play the piano and watch TV. This was a bedroom when we moved in, and it had kind of a big window leading to the garden outside. So we built these built-in bookcases to house our collection of books and all the kids' toys and things like that. I love that when you walk into the house, if you're gonna come into this room, the first thing you see is this just beautiful wall of books. I love it. I love books. I think that they are a beautiful way to make a house feel like a home. And I love how the bookcases are kind of stacked quite close together. So I like that feeling of being overstuffed. I really like it. This mantle is also original. When we moved in, it was covered in beige paint, and it took me many, many days to strip. But I'm glad I did. It's the original slate, and I just think it's really charming. Again, we haven't really touched the tiles or the insert, so it's not as beautiful maybe as a modern home would be, but I just think it would be a shame to rip them out, even though I think they are technically ugly. I think that they tell a wonderful story, so they are staying. So as an interior designer, I always listen to the house first. The house has to work for the family, for the people that live in it, but it also, you have to be true to the bones of the house, and this house has such good bones. So again, the cornicing in this room, the fireplace, the floorboards, even these like ugly tiles, I think they're all part of the bones and the fabric of the house. So as a designer, I really like to listen to what's around, the flow, the feel, the light, and I really try to keep what you can keep. I would never remove something original if we don't have to. If it's working and it's okay, I always try to keep it. I think that those are the kind of things, the layers, the charm, even the grit that make a house feel really, really special. In every kind of London terraced house, there's a middle room. Everyone calls it the middle room, and it's always so dark. Either it's a passageway to get from one room to the other, or it's a dead end, and often it's just kind of an afterthought. So we wanted to avoid the afterthought. We wanted to put the TV in this room because then we knew it would get a lot of use. And we knew that our kids, we have 3 kids, we knew that they would want a place that was kind of their own. So we decided that the middle room would be it. That means if we're in the kitchen, which is down there, we could be kind of close at hand, but they could also have their own space. So our kids do pretty much everything here. We have 3 girls. They play with their Slovenian families. They read, they watch TV, they fight. They do all of the things kids do. And yet it can also be kind of an elegant room if we wanted it to, with all of the books. with the original cornicing, and we have a new piano. Our youngest likes to play piano. So the room is really, really, really multifunctional, and it gets so much use. It's probably the second most used room in the house after the kitchen. We're not too fussy about it. We brought this sofa over from America when we moved here about a decade ago. It is disgusting, but I don't mind. The kids use it, the cat uses it. We just kind of let them be kids in this room. The rug is really, really cheap from La Redoute. It's a very old coffee table that they kind of spill and draw on, and we just kind of let them be kids in this room, and that's really nice. So now let's go into the kitchen and dining room, and I'll show you what we did in there. Okay, so now we're in the kitchen. This is my favorite spot in the house. I love it very, very much. When we moved in, it was not like this at all. In fact, we added this entire extension on with the glazed roof, with the glass roof. It's quite common to do this in a terraced house. This is called a side return extension. And we knew from the very beginning that we wanted to have a full ceiling of glass because typically, everyone knows England is very dark and cold, and I think having all of this glass is just the most amazing way to bring the outside in and bring the sun in. We also added this little extension on the end and added a lot of glass everywhere to kind of bring in the light, make it feel connected to the outside. You can tell where the original kitchen was because it's the flat ceiling up here. So this was the original kitchen of the house. It was really cold and really, really dark. It's north facing. It was really damp and actually really unpleasant to be in. So opening everything up to the west kind of brings in all that afternoon sun, and it's just a joy. We feel really, really lucky to have this as our kitchen. We're also very keen cooks. So I designed the kitchen to really be a cook's kitchen and really, really work for a family of 5 and constant entertaining. So this was actually original to, not the original to the house, but when we bought the house, this was already here. It was over there where the kitchen was, and we decided to keep it just for budgetary reasons. It's on its last legs. I think it's about 20 years old, but still going and still working, so that's fine. One feature I love and I think is quite unusual, but I just really stick by it, is this massive catering sink that I had made to measure with a big stainless steel backsplash. We have, as I mentioned, 3 kids, we cook a lot, and I love a double bowl sink. I love also not having to worry about anything. So having something like stainless steel where you can drop a glass, it's not gonna break, it's not gonna scratch. It's just the hardest working thing in the house, and I love it so, so much. Another really hard-working thing is this worktop. Everyone thinks it's marble, but it's actually quartzite, which is a natural stone, but much tougher than marble. It doesn't stain, it doesn't scratch, and it's beautiful. It has a lovely leathered finish, and it's another thing that I adore about this house. What else? We've got this amazing island, which looks like it's old, but we actually had it made. I designed it, and my good friends at Monkey and Bird made it. It is made to fit our pans, our trays. It's just a joyful piece. So it looks like an old shop counter, but it's just a modern piece made to look old by brilliant artisans who make brilliant furniture. Okay, so we've moved around the world quite a lot, and the things that we take with us are few, but some things that I have taken are my Le Creuset pots, which are over here, and I knew I wanted them on display. I didn't want to kind of hide them away, so we designed the island to display my collection of Le Creusets. They are really expensive pots, but I tend to get mine, surprise, surprise, on eBay, and they're actually incredibly affordable. So I've just got this massive guy last year, and I think he was about 50 pounds. So I tend to troll eBay a lot for the flame colored Le Creuset, and I just love the way that they pop in an otherwise quite neutral space. So another thing that I really wanted to incorporate in the kitchen was a place where I could close the doors and keep kind of the hustle, the bustle, the breakfast stuff closed away. We were told many times that we wouldn't be able to fit it into our kitchen, but I insisted that we do. And I knew it would work in my head, and it just works so well in real life. So this is the pantry. I found these doors on eBay. again, and I had the opening made to measure to fit the doors. I brought these knobs back from my mother-in-law's house in Massachusetts, and we actually have knobs from our parents' houses all over the house, which I think is really a lovely touch. They were stripped already, but I gave them a whitewash as well, just to like bring all the tones of the wood closer together. And this architrave was actually the original architrave of the window that we removed to connect the kitchen to the library. So this is our pantry. Let's see which state it is in. Okay, it's not so bad. Right, so we kind of designed it to fit our life. And I really encourage clients when we're designing things like this in pantries and cupboards that we design it to fit their life and their needs. So we designed a shelf specifically for mugs. It's the exact height you need for a mug, specifically for these ball jars that we brought back from the States, and specifically to kind of stack these Bon Maman jars. So there's no space wasted. And it's a big space because we have high ceilings, but it's actually not a massive space. So we really needed to think strategically about storage. So this is where kind of breakfast happens. We've got our toaster, our kettle, our coffee machines. We've got a microwave hidden under here, and kind of a lot of junk is under this skirt, which my mother-in-law made for me. And we painted this kind of space, what my husband called a really ugly color, but I actually think having a bright, earthy color in an otherwise quite kind of beige kitchen, it just brings me a lot of joy, and I really like it. And I love the way that this cloth that I found at a discount fabric store back home really talks to the mustard paint color. And yeah, I love this pantry. I think it's really, really useful and really, really cute. Okay, so another unusual thing that we did in this kitchen is rather than have an integrated refrigerator, which was going to be a bit too expensive, or just have a freestanding one, we decided to box in the fridge. I really love it. I think it kind of makes the fridge disappear, but we're not pretending that it's not a fridge. And it was a much less expensive way to kind of semi-conceal a refrigerator. I also really like that the fridge is off to the side and not part of the kind of heart of the kitchen. I always do this in my kitchen designs. I think that refrigerators, we use them a lot less than we think we do. And when we do use them, it's quite quick. So I like to keep them off to the side. And I just love that it's kind of tucked away here. So it's not the thing that you're looking at all the time, because refrigerators are not as beautiful as joinery or millwork or something like that. So then next to the fridge, we've got this wall, which I love very much. I just love this part of the kitchen. We had the idea that we wanted this space, which is entirely new, to feel a bit old and like it belonged to the house. So we put this very simple kind of paneling up the wall, and then we stopped it here and put these Amazon pegs up and painted it all. We got this idea from a rental we lived in London, and we just thought it was the most like charming wall that you could have. So it looks like it's original. It looks really old, but it's just simple MDF kind of beadboard and timber pegs from Amazon. And it just means that we can display different things. We can move this all around. Just really, really like it. It makes me feel, yeah, like we can kind of have art that's always changing, and the kids can put up stuff and move it around. And just like, yeah, I like it a lot. Another thing over here that I adore is this piece. It's an apothecary from Denmark. And again, it was from my dad. It is just such a special piece. And actually, believe it or not, every single drawer is full. And I have a weird memory for it. So I sometimes don't get the drawer exactly right, but I know in general where I'm looking for something. So we keep everything in here. Everything from the kids' shoes to kind of hot plates to matches to elastic bands to hair ties to batteries. Everything, like the whole kind of detritus of life is stored in this piece. So it's just such a useful piece, and I just think it's stunning. I love it, and I will always have it with me. It's the thing I would save in a fire if the house caught fire. I always joke that I would carry it out myself. What else? We've got some sweet little pictures of us and the kids and friends and my dad back in the day. And then we've got this cabinet, which again, I just found these doors on eBay. I knew we needed a place to display things like glassware that wouldn't fit on our open shelving. So I found these doors, and we just had this cupboard kind of made to fit them. And it's another thing that looks original to the house but is completely new. But because we didn't restore the doors, it just has this lovely lived-in feel that I really, really like. And that brings us to the dining area, which is right here. We had originally thought, because it's kind of a 3 meter by 3 meter extension onto the original kitchen, and that was kind of what was permitted by our municipality, our council, to add on to the kitchen without getting permission. So it's not massive, and so we thought maybe we'll build kind of an L-shaped bench and have it upholstered, and we'll have a kind of an L-shaped banquette. I found this unbelievable wavy bench being sold by these sellers called Stowaway London. I loved the wave. I loved how unique it was. So I essentially just bought it and we made it work. So we kind of designed the space around the bench. We had the table already. I made sure that they would fit, like physically fit. But otherwise it was just, I just fell in love with it and I knew we had to have it. This table, again, we got it from my dad. It's an antique Danish piece. And we tend to really like these just kind of plastic chairs with a lot of kids and just a lot of hustle and bustle. I love how they kind of disappear. They're a little bit modern, but they're also really classic. So I just adore how all of these pieces kind of fit together and also connect us with these massive windows to the garden. And my houseplants, also so many houseplants. I tend to, I don't know, they just tend to like find me, and they also provide a connection to the garden, especially in the winter when it's really quite dreary in England. Okay, so it was important to us when designing this extension, a side return extension, that we had a connection to the garden. So you can kind of come out this way. I can show you. So this garden was just rubble when we bought the house. There was nothing in it. It was a few dying trees that we had to unfortunately take down. So it was just a blank slate, and we had almost no money at the end of the renovation. So we had the middle part paved, and I planted just so many plants on the borders. And we put in this amazing arch, and this jasmine, the star jasmine, is just really starting to come into its own and grow up and over. We also have 6 varieties of English roses planted, and the most amazing variety this year is this one. It's the James Galway, and it's just amazing. Yeah, I always kind of dreamt of having an English rose garden, and David Austin roses they're just incredible. And we also have this amazing sofa, which was a gift from Sun's Lifestyle. It is honestly the most comfortable thing we own. We tend to sit out here much more than inside in the summer. And we really do eat out here every single night. We just have this amazing umbrella from Plea, I think it's called. Just a beautiful, beautiful parasol. So the garden is slowly coming together. It's always been a little bit of an afterthought, but I just absolutely adore gardening. I love getting my hands dirty, and I will show you the front garden later. It's just the newest project that we've done in the house, and I'm really proud of it. So now we're gonna go upstairs, but before we do, I just wanna talk a little bit about this hallway. So this is another instance where we did something that maybe wasn't advised. So rather than come down from the entry level into kind of the original kitchen level, which is down 5 stairs. It's kind of traditional to have that kind of level difference in these terraced houses. We created a kind of a long and dark hallway because we knew we needed different kind of spaces and we didn't know how else to fit them. So we have an entry to a very, very Victorian basement there. We have a lovely big coat and shoe closet here, and then we have a small toilet here. So I think maybe what would have been an inclination to kind of open it all up and just make this space part of the kitchen and quite open and big, we kind of listened to what we needed as a family, which was storage for kind of coats and bags and hats and shoes. We needed a toilet, and this long and dark hallway, which everyone told us would kind of be unpleasant. Actually, it works really, really well, and we're really happy that we did it. And a little bit of the hallway that I love are these stairs. They were here when we got the house, and I painted them my favorite red, which is a RAL color. It's called RAL 3004. And I think it's wine red, which might have something to do with it, but I just love it and I use it throughout the house. It's my favorite red, and yeah, it just brings a lot of joy walking up my red steps. So let's go upstairs. So these are the stairs. We decided not to put a runner, not to do too much to them. We've just kind of sanded them back, brightened them with lye, and lacquered them. These are actually Christmas lights that I just tend to keep up all year long. They go all the way to the top of the house. It's kind of a 4.5-story house. And we keep them on as night lights for the kids at night because they just make sure no one's gonna fall down the stairs. We like the natural wood. We like how there's different tones, and we like how it all just tells the story of a very old house. Here we are on the first floor landing. In these old terraced houses, you often have kind of like a normal floor and then a half floor, and then a floor and then another half floor. So this is a half floor. It sits directly above what the original kitchen was. And we decided to carve out of this landing a very useful laundry room. We really wanted to have the laundry machines kind of closer to the bedrooms and not in the kitchen, which is quite traditional in England. So we just kind of carved it out. We were very lucky that there's already a window here, and we stacked our very simple machines here. Actually, there was no floor. There still is no floor under this vinyl. There is just plywood. There was just, I don't know, the floor was gone for some reason. So we put vinyl on top. It's waterproof, it's inexpensive, and it's very sweet. And my dad actually came one year and painted all of the trim in Sudbury Yellow by Farrow & Ball, and just a really sweet, lovely little room. We framed up some prints that we got in Maine, in a flea market in Maine. And there's this amazing sink that, again, I was on eBay one night and I probably had too many glasses of wine and I bid on this sink, and I accidentally won it for about maybe 20 pounds. And then I had to figure out how to get it here. But anyway, long story short, it fits perfectly in this room. It's so useful and it's very, very charming. It looks like it was made for this space. So let's go up to our bedroom and to our bathroom. This is our bedroom. So we recently did the bedroom and the bathroom. That was kind of phase 2 of our renovations. We had to do our renovations in stages because we tend to kind of eat what we kill, in the sense that we just save up enough to do a renovation and then we have to save up again. So this was the most recent kind of big project that we did. This room, again, has the incredible cornicing and the original ceiling rose, which we just had to keep. So we had to replaster the ceiling, unfortunately, but we made sure that all of the original details would be kept. So because this room is quite large, we knew that we needed to break it up in order to have a closet space like this. We also kind of liked the idea of a cozier bedroom. So what we decided to do is we had these wardrobes built and had all of these drawers built on this side of the room. There's a window there, so there's like already kind of its own dignity. It has its own dignity as a space, and it has a lot of natural light. And then we used the back of this piece as a headboard, or we used it as a wall against which to put our headboard. We also decided to have a circular flow. I really like circular flow. So we have it downstairs, we have it many spaces upstairs, so that we just avoid dead ends in general. I'm not a huge fan of a dead end. I think that when you're in a house, being able to move from one space to the next in various ways is just, it has a nice feeling to it. So you can kind of go into the bedroom this way, or you can go in this way. And so our bedroom area is a little more intimate. We're not kind of looking at any wardrobes. We're not looking at any clothing. We are looking instead at this fireplace, which was not here when we moved in. We actually found that on the side of the road, and I made my husband carry it. It was in 11 different pieces, and I made him carry it home. In this room, again, we've got an amazing bay window just like downstairs. Kato, our cat, really likes it up here. It's quiet and it's warm. And then we also had this glass that the previous owner, the mirror, the previous owner had put it in. I wasn't sure what to do with it. I didn't know if I should take it out. I didn't know. So what we did is we just put a very simple molding around it, and I kind of like it. It just, again, I always like to leave things as they are if possible. I got this really, really, really sweet vanity with a marble top from Shiny Things London. Again, an Instagram seller who I adore. My first rose I cut from the garden is there. That's a Bathsheba rose, I think it's called, by David Austin. And what else? In this alcove, we've got just a beautiful piece of pine that I actually got in England, but it reminds me of the furniture I grew up with. My dad his bread and butter was antique pine like this. And then this leads us into our bathroom. So these two rooms were completely separate spaces when we got the house. They were both bedrooms. In fact, our youngest, Domino, slept here for a few years, but we knew that we wanted to have kind of an ensuite bathroom, but we also wanted it to be a family bathroom. So we put a doorway in here, and we kept the doorway that the bathroom already had to the hall. And again, it's just like an example of circular flow. It means that if you're in the bathroom, you don't have to exit through the bedroom. You don't have to disturb someone who's sleeping. And if you're in the hall, you don't have to come through the bedroom to get to the bathroom. So again, circular flow, I love it. I try to use it everywhere I can. So come on into the bathroom and I will show you around. So our idea with this bathroom is we wanted it to be really elegant. We didn't have a ton of money to do it. And we also wanted it to feel like any other room in the house. We didn't want it to be too sterile or cold, as bathrooms so often can be. So one thing that I really wanted to avoid is tile. I'm not a huge user of tile or fan of tile. So rather than tile, we used micro cement. We used it in this shower enclosure, which we kind of just built 2 stud walls, and we covered everything in micro cement. It is just such an amazing material. It feels kind of soft and warm to the touch. It's waterproof. It's so easy to clean. It's really a dream. So yeah, I just adore this massive walk-in shower, all covered in micro cement. We used some marble tiles on the floor there, but otherwise we just kind of avoided tile in a bathroom, which I think is quite tricky to do. One other thing in this room that we kind of knew we needed, being in England, was a clawfoot tub. Again, another eBay purchase. I just painted it to match the color of the walls, which is Portland Stone Light by Paint and Paper Library. We didn't restore it or anything. It just is what it is. It's wonderful. I love it. We decided to stick it into the middle of the room after kind of a lot of discussion about layout, and I think it really works. You actually don't need that much space in a bathroom to move around. You're not kind of doing exercises in here. So it kind of is the centerpiece. It's quite low down. We just adore it. Another thing we love is the marble. So I use my trusted marble guys. Hi, James and Luke from PGQ. And we put massive backsplashes behind each sink. We also did the skirting in the room in marble, except for this part, which is the original skirting. Because there was no skirting in this room originally. It had been removed a long time ago. And I didn't quite know how I was going to connect the micro cement to the original floorboards. So we actually had a little bit of marble left over, and on the day of install, they just cut it in their van for me. It was really, really amazing. And it's a detail that I really love. This fireplace wasn't here. So when this room was a bedroom, this was actually kind of a big desk area, and we reinstated a fireplace, mostly for decorative purposes, but I feel like it gives the room a bit of soul, and it reflects what might have been here originally. It's a very, very inexpensive fire surround from Screwfix. I think it cost about £100. And we put a bit of an offcut of marble on top, and it just gives it a little bit of elegance and elevates it. We also used unlacquered brass everywhere. This is all from Cast Iron Bath Company. Again, it just kind of adds a feeling of age and charm and really works, I think, in an English bathroom. One other thing in this room that I think is quite unusual for a bathroom is the window dressing. So we had this lovely window, and I just didn't want it to feel too cold and too sterile again. So my friend Lindsay actually helped me make these curtains. We went to a maker and she helped me kind of design how they would all work. She's just incredible. We went to a shop in Goldsmith Road in West London and bought all the fabric and carried it home, and it just feels like just a lovely, warm, unique part of the bathroom. The same cafe curtain here as downstairs. It's the same cheap Habitat fabric. And Cato likes to go outside this way. The last thing that I'll talk about in this bathroom are the towel radiators. So in England, we love our towel radiators because it's very damp and cold, but I just couldn't find any in unlacquered brass that were affordable and pretty. So what I did is I went onto Etsy and I went to, I think it's Bow Street Crafts, and he makes unbelievable copper towel rads to measure. And here's another one. They kind of serve as the radiators in the room, and they also serve to keep your towels dry and toasty, and your clothes, if you're getting dressed, your pajamas, whatever it is. I just think they're so beautiful. They're kind of tarnishing a little bit with age, which I love. They're really, really affordable, and they're just another part of the bathroom that I adore. This is our girls' bathroom. We've got 3 girls, and we did a really fun bathroom for them. When we moved in, this was actually the boarders' kitchen, so the kitchen that was used by the people renting rooms. And we were really lucky to have it because when we did the big renovation downstairs, we used this as our kitchen for 8 months. And it had everything we needed. It had a stove and a refrigerator and a washing machine, so we were set. So in this room, again, I tried to keep it warm. I really don't like bathrooms that feel too sterile. So we kept the original floorboards. Actually, we haven't restored them at all. This was how this room was. We haven't filled in any gaps. We haven't even sanded them back. That's for another time. We just kind of ran out of steam. I used the same RAL 3004 on the architrave and the door. I just really love the combination of pink and red. It's a classic, and I think it really works in a fun bathroom like this. And that's reflected in this amazing shower curtain from Colors of Arley, which has kind of the same exact tones. We used a lovely pink on the walls called Plaster 3 by Paint and Paper Library, and then we filled the rest of the room with kind of antique bits. So we've got this like amazing little chest, another one here, and it's kind of where our girls keep all of their bits and bobs, their bathroom bits, and another stool in pine. So it's just kind of like a warm room that doesn't feel too sterile and isn't too precious. Another lovely thing about this room is the pink grout. I mentioned I'm not really massive on tile, but we were really at the end of our budget. There was no way we were going to put micro cement in here. So we got the cheapest tiles possible, and then we just dyed normal white grout with Hemway grout powder, and we made it kind of bright magenta. And it's just a really fun little feature. Another thing I love about this room is this cafe curtain, which is from Marl Studio. It's just so sweet, and the colors kind of reflect our fun stripy towels from H&M and the pink walls, and it makes the room feel quite warm and inviting, which is difficult to do in a bathroom, I think. So another way that we were kind of saving money in this room, because we really were at the end of a long renovation, is I bought these lampshades off of Amazon and I painted them myself with the paint testers, which we had way too many of. And we did another one right over there. So we've got kind of fun painted lampshades that cost almost nothing. Another way was we bought 2 large format tiles to form a backsplash rather than tiling something or having a bespoke piece of marble made. I think altogether this was about £30, and it cost nothing for the builders to kind of just stick it up. So it was just a nice way to protect the wall and also save a bit of money at the end of a very, very long renovation. I also love this piece from She Paints. It's Giovanotti lyrics, an Italian song that we love, an Italian artist that we really love. And I love how the colors tie into the pink as well. In true English fashion, it just started to rain, but I wanted to show you my front garden really quick. So this is the very last thing that we've done. This used to be just a gravel pit, and I had long dreamt of creating a very sweet kind of evergreen garden out here. So we've just completed a few months ago. The planting is all really, really new, and I'm just so happy with how it turned out. We used clay pavers here to kind of bring the eye up to the front door. So the blue matches the blue of the front door, and the red border matches kind of the red arch of the of the front door entryway. We've got jasmine planted here and here and here. So hopefully in the summer, it's just gonna smell amazing when you walk down the front path. We've got an amazing bike shed from the bike shed company. It's so beautiful. And it finally means that we have a place to put all of our bikes. We've got Kato, the cat, who likes to sit on it when it's not raining. And then we've just got this amazing array of evergreens that I planted in the front and in the window boxes. And I'm just really excited about this. I think after having kind of a gravel pit as a front garden for the first 3-something years of living here, I'm just really, really happy to have another place where I can get my hands dirty. So for me, what makes a house a home is wherever my family is. And I think that this house really reflects us as a family. It really works for us as a family. I just think spaces need to kind of be in conversation with the people who live in them, and I really feel like our home reflects who we are.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.